All right, welcome back to Don't Think, Just Charge. I'm Dave, he's Harvey, that's my wife Tony, and today we're going through a Q&A from all the wonderful questions you guys have submitted on our Discord. Let's get into it. Earlier this week, we put out a poll to everyone in our Discord. Come join us. Details in the blurb down below. Effectively asking, what do you want to hear from us? It's a bit of a Q&A. We're going to cover some pretty interesting meta topics, I think, in this one. And this is Tony, for those of you who aren't familiar with her. I don't know if before this or after this, there'll be a video featuring her. This may be her debut. That may be her debut. Either way, she says hello. Say hello.
Hey.
There we go. Tony's going to join us for a little bit of this video and read out the questions and maybe chip in every now and then.
This is from Sven. What other war games, if any, do you play? Come on, Harvey. Tell us.
Yeah, go on then. None. Right? Is the answer. Like that we both played Warhammer when we were kids.
Yeah.
And I think Dave, you've played like a little bit of Warhammer somewhat recently, right? You've been showing interest.
10th edition. I played quite a lot of that when that came out. That was when I was on paternity leave with our first child, and then welcoming Hamish to the channel, our dog. Yeah, I played quite a lot of 10th edition. I've played some Age of Sigmar. What else have we played? OPR has just taken over our life a little bit.
It certainly has.
Yeah, for sure.
Before OPR, you played Star Wars. What was it called?
X-Wing.
X-Wing.
Does that count as a war game? I guess it does, right? Yeah, that was a couple of years back though. Yeah, I mean, large scale war games like we play now, basically nothing, right? There's been a couple of tabletop-y games, right?
Yeah.
And we've always been fans of board games and stuff like that, but actual war games, none, right? Like I came into OPR with no minis whatsoever.
Yeah.
What's the definition of a war game?
What's the definition of a war game?
What makes it different from a board game?
I don't know. I guess minis are moving around a board, right?
Yeah, but like you can have minis moving around a board in a board game. I suppose it's.
But I think a board game has a board that you play on, right? Like there's like a structure to your board, right? You have spaces and things you put down, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a war game is just like terrain. I don't know what the definition is, but yeah, I would say that.
It's those characteristics, right? You play it on a bigger table rather than a board, and the minis do make a core aspect of it. Perhaps the war aspect is you versus somebody, because you can have like cooperative board games with different objectives based on it, rather than just like war and objectives in it.
Yeah, and if you're playing war games, you're obviously a superior nerd as well, which is obviously important. Yeah, you can look down on people playing board games.
I will say I've been looking at the rules for a recursion kind of war game, something that's coming back, Warzone Eternal. I understand that Warzone was a war game very popular in the 90s, and the guys who made that, Transatlantis Games, are reviving it. And Warzone Eternal is coming out soon. They've got STLs coming. I've been looking at the rules for that. It's a D20 based war game, and that looks really cool. But otherwise, we don't play very many. Certainly nothing between ourselves. We've enjoyed. I don't know if there's a question later on in it, but like we've enjoyed a lot of different strategy games in our lives, like through video games and the like as well.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Is chess a war game?
No, chess is not a war game. Absolutely not.
We both like chess.
Yeah. Not very good at it. But
yeah.
Chess is the kind of thing that I play like for like 2 weeks every year or something, and then call it a day.
Spamming the London. That's all we do.
Umbra Cage asked, what is your favorite / coolest proxied minis you've seen? And then Grumpy Wolf says, I'd like to piggyback onto this. What paint job are you most proud of? And what's the best kitbash you've done? Provide pictures if possible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Umbra Cage and Grumpy Wolf. Umbra Cage, favorite and coolest proxied mini you've seen. We'll do some screen sharing through the magic of editing.
Yes. I guess the coolest proxy mini we've seen from someone else. If that's the intention of the question, because I'm going to pick something I've done myself. But I know that when you hosted your tournament at the start of last year, there were a couple of people with some interesting proxies there. there's a guy who's actually another YouTuber. If I remember, I'll link him down below. Who has a bunch of Among Us guys that he uses as Dwarf Guilds.
Kevin Craft. Oh my god, I'd forgotten about
Kevin
that.
Craft. Yeah, which is that was really cool to see, right? Like I think I'd seen him on Reddit, and then I actually played against him in a tournament at the start of last year. So I got to see him in real life and stuff, which is cool. And he like handmade all these little clay guys. Which, yeah, it's one of the things where you're like, oh, it'll take me less time to make something in clay, surely, right? Because I don't have to paint it. But I think he took a really, really long time to make them because they look really good as well, right? Like if I did them, they'd have thumbprints all over them. Yeah, and then apart from that, I mean, I made some cool proxies, right? When I first started the game. This has been mentioned a couple of times on the Discord, but I think it's never been shown on the channel. But the first event of OPR in face-to-face I ever played was a skirmish event. And I wasn't going until like literally the night before. Yeah, here they are. And so I needed to make some minis. So me and my girlfriend at the time, we went to Hobbycraft, which is like a hobbying shop in the UK. And we just bought stuff and with some PVA glue and some googly eyes. And yeah, we made these little guys because I didn't have anything. And this is actually where my like ghostly undead obsession thing comes from, because at the time we were playing a lot of skirmish and we believed Ghostly Undead to be the worst faction there because they had undead. And if you watch that skirmish video, we don't think very highly of morale and they're very fragile, not a lot of tough things. So I thought it'd be fun just to bring as many bodies as I could, basically as many units. And I think there's like 11 or something in this list. And it was actually super, super fun. And then the week after was UKGE, and I ended up borrowing someone else's Ghostly Undead minis for that because of playing in this tournament, not even because I thought they were like particularly amazing. So yeah, this is my most proud bit of mini work. I think some people asked later about what's the, oh yeah, Grumpy Wolf's asked about what's the paint job I'm most proud of. There is not a single paint job I've done that I'm proud of. Not, I suppose maybe the Santa dwarves is the closest thing to proud because they're silly, which I don't think we have a picture of. They're in your garage somewhere, but
no, I don't think we've got.
No, all of my painting happens the night before events. I go around to Dave's house and I force Tony to paint for me, and we just rush through.
Amazing.
Yeah. Your painting's always very good. Mine is just, it's not even worth mentioning. I'm trying to get 3 colors on things.
For UKG 2025, we had a paint party the night before with Tony, with Harvey's girlfriend, me, and Harvey. And we spent hours painting everyone's minis to get them ready. And yeah, Harvey had his Ghostly Undead, just an absolute horde, like 70 minis of that. And yeah, everyone joined in. It was good fun.
Yeah, in fact, even your daughter, who I think was like 1.5 at the time or something, wasn't she? She painted one of my minis as well. So I've got a very splotchy looking ghost, but to be honest, it fit in with the styling we were doing, everything. She literally just grabbed paint and started slapping it on. And it looked great. Like a lot of people like win the lineup. It took me a while to pick out which one it was because it was just like it just fit in, right?
She's very talented.
She's very talented.
She's very talented because she tries hard.
As for some of my proudest paint jobs, I try and take myself seriously when I want to. There's one like that. It's it's Indrasta from the Stormcast Eternal range. Well, Harvey's editing this.
Bring it close to the camera.
I'll bring it close to the camera, but I'll try and send, if I remember to, I'll send a picture of it. Oh, here's the dog. Here's one of the dogs on my lap. There you go. Shove it up against the fisheye lens. The lighting's not going to do it justice.
Yeah, but this is when you're a painting competition thing, right? One of the tournaments, the best painted.
UKGE 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah, it's a very sexy
mini off of a precariously balanced stack on my desk while doing this. I painted her up, and I won best painted. I won best painted at UKGE, which was a complete shock. I'm very proud.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. You were really surprised when it happened. No, like Dave was genuinely shocked. Sorry, like he wasn't expecting it at all, right? And then
yeah,
we got a picture of you holding your thing.
That was the mini I put the most effort into, but that's because I friggin' love the mini. I love it. I love an angel mini. It's kind of. I've also.
You love red and gold.
I love red, gold, and white of my minis. I love an angel mini. The first painting competition I ever won was with another angel mini as well. Which I was like, wow, okay. And I found out that one of our friends, James, he's very, to his credit, he's very critical And he was like, yeah, I voted for you. I thought that your painting was super clean, super crisp lines, and it was a very good mini. And I was like, oh my God.
Thank you so much.
James.
Yeah.
So we've got those. I don't have any kit bashes. Haven't really done any kit bashing since like the return to wargaming.
I think the last time I did kit bashing was when I was a child playing Lizardman, right, when I was like 13 or something like that.
But Tony's just asked, what is kit bashing? Kit bashing is when you get, so like I have loads of different parts of minis on my desk constantly, right? So like here is some legs from the Void Crafted range. So there's a pair of legs. That's another pair of legs. But like there's an arm with a weapon on, and then if you are gluing together multi-part minis, you can get like the torso and the heads. All of the parts that make up this mini are from the same kit. But if I take minis from different kits and put them together on one mini, parts from different kits and put them on one mini, that's kit bashing.
Frankensteining them.
Frankensteining them. That would be one way of doing it.
It is Frankensteining it.
And so people do really cool and creative things with kit bashes. Harvey and I don't have really any to show off at this particular stage.
No, this would be a really great time for Ed to be on the channel, because I think Ed did a bunch of, in fact, if you go check out Don't Think Just Paint, I think it's actually on there. He did a bunch of really cool kit bashing for that Trench Crusade.
Trench Crusade, he did.
Yeah, really cool minis. Because back before they did their own minis, everyone was just kit bashing stuff. Yeah, he's got a really cool, I think, a tutorial as well on painting this like chain guy. I don't remember, but that's probably the coolest kit bash I've seen.
Let's get the link down below so people can go check out that video, because it like skyrocketed. I did really well with that one.
Yeah, it was sexy mini.
And then proxies, cool proxies. I will share another video if I can just another screen.
Yeah, so on the topic of me not liking painting or being very good at it, which I guess come hand in hand, I've actually got one of our friends from the UK scene to basically paint me an army, because I decided what I wanted. I was going to pick some minis that I thought were rad, and I'm just going to use them for proxies for everything. So this Fleshcraft Studios Sons of the Drowned, they're like generic enough that they could fit for a lot of things. This guy's kind of with guns and swords, and they look fantasy, but you could also probably sneak them into GDF. So yeah, I've had Bents paint up all these basically in the hopes that this will be my once and for all proxy for literally everything ever. So I'll be running these guys as Dark Elf Raiders, which is kind of cool, at UKG this year. And I won't have to be embarrassed by the minis I'm pushing around. I'll also probably have to buy like a nicer carry case as well for them all, so that I can protect them like babies instead of my ghosts, which basically half of them ended up snapped into pieces by the end of UKG.
That's model last year as well.
Oh yeah. Because I when I rocked up to UKG last year, we were trying to print more minis, and then Ed's printer died, and so I had to proxy some minis anyway. So those little ghosts you saw at the start of the video actually featured in UKG last year, leading troops, and then I broke even more and had to use even more of those guys. So yeah, I'm going to be a lot more careful with these Bents, I swear.
There was midway through that I was saying about minis that you're not embarrassed to put on the table. There was a little squeak from my side here going, all right. Someone feeling quite affronted that their mini was embarrassing. These guys these Sons of the Drowned are really cool. I've printed most of the ones, if not all of them, that you've sent to Bents, and I've printed them off and been like, I want some. They're really cool. My choice, as everyone on the channel knows, I'm a Custodians lover till I die. Basic. These guys from Maker's Cult are just freaking cool. Tempestus, whatever they are. I've seen these minis. I saw them when they were released, and I was thinking, don't buy them. But the range is awesome. They've got these kind of, I think it's meant to be like in the Warhammer lore of like whenever the original Custodians were meant to be. I think that's what it's kind of like, or whatever the original Space Marines were. My Warhammer lore is out my head, but what I can say is these big guys in the middle, I just think they're freaking sweet. So
I think it's so funny as well, because
what's that?
I don't find them appealing at all. Right, like I in my eyes, you couldn't have been a lamer mini, right? Okay, but like, yeah, it'd be the same if you showed me an angel, right? Like, it's so funny how you have these like preferences for things that must be grounded in something, but I don't know. There's just something about it just doesn't do it for me.
That's fair enough. I mean, I will say there are so many. It is hard to say. Like some of my favorite ones are like Puppets War, and again, just picking the big chunky dudes, right?
Yeah, guys with shoulder pads.
Yeah, guys with shoulder pads. These are really cool. But those are like the proxies outside of OPR.
Yeah.
Ghost.
Sorry, I just popped up Discord and Tony saw the ghost again. But what was the actual question as well? Favorite and coolest proxied mini you've seen?
Yeah.
Actually, the Wood Elf range from OPR is also really cool. Like, there's a lot of things in that. In fact, let me pull this up right now as well, and I'll let's go for Wood Elf.
You're about to be let down by my mini factory, almost certainly.
If I go for OPR, let's see if I can do it this way.
Yep, here we go. It's the my mini factory experience.
Wood Elves? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, you'd really think that would work, right? But
I don't know why I thought it would work with robots. So far.
It was a lovely try. It's honestly, it's maybe the worst website ever made.
Yeah,
you're going to try again, and you're going to find them. Hey, we got them. We got them.
I found I appreciate proxies looking for things that aren't OPR or maybe not like Warhammer, but I do think that the Wood Elf range in OPR is one of my favorite mini ranges, like just purely because of the trees and the bugs. And I never thought that I'd like bug minis. I thought they'd actually be a bit icky. And then I
not painted them as well. They look very easy to paint.
Yeah, they were very easy to paint. This isn't the range with it, but like these are the the tree giants, and they're really freaking cool. Wood Elves Army Bundle 2, yeah, and this has got like the Eternals in it, and I just think they are some of the coolest minis that I've had the pleasure of painting, and I can't find any right now. Where's the clicky button for it? There it is. These guys, I thought they were really cool, and like, it's not strictly proxies, probably in the spirit of what the question was, but I do think that these are friggin' awesome. But yeah, so it's that between some basic ones for me. Love just big chunky dudes with shoulder pads, and then
the 80s you would have really liked.
I'd have loved the 80s. And then Harvey's Fleshcraft Studio submissions. Those are our favourite ones there.
Are cool.
They are cool, yeah. Thank you. On to the next question.
What changes to OPR do you think need to happen to keep it growing?
For anyone wondering, by the way, this is what my wife thinks I sound like.
No, what changes to OPR do you think need to happen to keep it growing?
It's like the 1940s New York, like news reporter thing.
The transatlantic. What changes to OPR do you think? No, I can't even do it.
That's terrible.
Yeah. You're doing goblins from World of Warcraft right there. Yeah.
What changes to OPR do you think need to happen to keep it growing? You go first, Harvey, because I'll get soapboxy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, ignore everything we talk about. It's probably one of the changes that most needs to happen. I think they're already taking the steps they need to keep it growing. I think the big thing that OPR doesn't have right now is store visibility, right? Which they're on the very, very edge of getting, right? But it's really hard to sell people on a game where there is nothing to look at. Yeah. Right? You got like, come play this game, and if they like building lists, then they've got like a whole world of army force to go into. But if they don't have that, then it's like, okay, well, do you have a 3D printer, which is a small number of people, and then they can get excited about STLs. But if they don't have any of those things, then you're like, well, what am I here to get excited about? Because the like, it's called one-page rules. There's one page of rules to really look at. So I think it's a bit of it's like a bit like an apparition at the moment, right? And it needs to be more solid, more grounded. And once it's in shops, then people will start to recognize it and go from there. So I think they're already taking the steps they need to. I mean, I would like to see, I think the Ranger program is great. I would like to see a little bit more investment from OPR into like advertising these events. I know that you can go find them on the Ranger website, but once again, that's not something that people are going to be looking for, right? Like if you're into OPR, you might be in those circles and looking on the pages. But yeah, leaving it up to the Rangers to advertise their own events when there could be a bit of money put into it, and maybe a couple of stores in the area you can go and be like, hey, we want to drop these things in or whatever, and give some support for that would be cool. Because at the end of the day, like OPR is really fun to play, but the biggest and hardest thing to do is get a Warhammer player, which is basically a target market, to forsake their precious game that they've spent probably thousands of pounds on, and probably thousands of hours trying to understand the damn rules. So like you're trying to bring that crowd in, which I think is very, very difficult, especially if people don't know what it is. Like I say all the time, like, oh, I've got a YouTube channel and I make videos about OPR, and they go like, what does OPR stand for? And I go, one-page rules, and they go like, right, because it's not really brand name, right? Like Warhammer is like, immediately people know that's some nerdy shit, but like one-page rules, I feel like doesn't carry the same, like, it's just some words put together, right? So it's very easy to forget as well. But yeah, that's what I think they could do. I mean, I'm no business expert, I don't know, but certainly I think getting people in the front door and playing the game once is enough to get a lot of people invested.
Tony has left us at that point. It is back to just me. What do I think OPR needs to do to keep it growing? Yeah, the honest answer is they are doing the things that I think they need to do. The things I think they need to do are expand on the development of the game a little bit in terms of the actual staff that they hire and the people they bring on. Tano said that they're doing that. We saw that in the mission jam. They're bringing in people for that. They are getting other people into that technical side of the game and the development, which I think is something that is important. And I think it's important for two reasons. One, it will improve the quality of the game that is being produced, and that is currently one of the largest parts of OPR's offering. And two, it will reduce Tano's workload, because this is Tano's game, Tano's vision. He's bringing people in to support him in the delivery of what is now a business. But he is still at the head of everything, right? As far as we can see. And that's understandable. It's his brainchild. He took this from a 4chan board however many years ago and has developed it into, this massive company that is, well, I'll say massive. He'll say it's very small in the comparison pool. But Chris at Good Enough Gaming's been doing this series recently about a whole host of things like indie war games. And he just did a video on what's a heartbreak game recently, and OPR is a heartbreak game. It's where people take a game system that they're passionate about and develop their own rules and do corrections to it. And that's effectively what OPR started out as. And it's called a heartbreak game because it develops a cult following. People get really obsessed and passionate about it, and then their hearts are broken by the fact that it doesn't launch and it can't get off the ground. And I think that OPR has left that heartbreak category now and is pushing into the front lines of modern day wargaming. And that is fantastic. It is an absolute credit to Tano, his vision, and the team that he's built up around him. And to answer the question, what changes to OPR do I think needs to happen to keep it growing, is that now Tano is out of this realm of fan game and he's into business. Tano needs to, unfortunately for him, experience the suffering that a lot of business owners experience, which is moving away from the passion and developing it into a business. And that is what will keep it growing. Now, Tano might look at that and go, no, I'm happy where I am, let's keep it there, and that's fair enough. But for that sort of progressive growth, there needs to be that transition. And I think it can happen. I think Tano can shift. If Tano took a step back from development, delegated effectively to a team of designers and developers, and then had the final call on everything, he could still maintain his passion and his brainchild in the way that he wants. Sorry, now all the animals are joining us on the video tonight. Here's my cat. He could still maintain his creative input on the game system, but I think that was something that would free up a lot of time for him to allow him to focus on the other things that are important. And now that's the other aspect, that we've got one half of OPR being a games company, the one page of rules, and you're very right, Harvey, no one knows what it, well, not no one, people don't necessarily know what it is from the brand name, but if it's a games company, that makes sense, keep that going. But it is also now becoming a law-based system. They're pushing their law. Great, keep that going. And then also a miniatures production company, an STL production company, and now in hard plastic. Broken Truth is just hitting people's post boxes at the moment. And for all of that to keep growing, the guy at the helm needs to have a load of attention on it. Tano already messages. He's working on 3.6, the next patch at the moment. And you see messages at frigging 3 a.m, his time. He's the same time zone as us. And I'll be up with my son, who's 6 months old. I'm looking for something to do on my phone while I'm feeding him or whatever. I'll go on Discord and I see messages from Tano awake at the same time as me. And it's like, you're committed, you're passionate. But for God's sake, get some sleep. Like, he has to do everything at all hours. And it's because it's still quite firmly within his creative control and direction, and that's great. But for growth, I think it needs to be taking those business steps. Paul, who's their business manager, what a fantastic leader for the business, and I want to see more of it. So my soapboxiness isn't saying change things. It's more of what they're already doing, really.
Yeah, I think, from like a non-wargamer head thing, right? Like every business is the same thing, right? You're selling a product and you want to make sure your product is better than other people's product. And once you've established that, then all it is marketing, right? And that's all it's ever been. And I think that marketing is the place for growth, right? I think it'd be nice for them to invest more in, this sounds like I'm scratching my own back. I'm not at all. YouTubers, right? Like get some of the big profile YouTubers. I know they did it before with Goober Town and stuff like that. But have someone on who, be like, hey, we want to sponsor a video, and you go play OPR.
Mini wargaming, they've done this. Yeah.
That's what I said, yeah. But I think, more of that would be good, and more like within those videos, like I saw the Goober Town, and is that mini wargaming?
No, mini wargaming was mini wargaming Dave, but he did do a sister video with Goober Town Hobbies. They did,
and they had like the dramatic cameras and stuff like that. I think
brilliant.
I think that's just good, but I think what that video didn't tell me is why to play OPR over other games, right? Like it was still like a 45-minute video or something like that, really. And edited videos are around that length. And really the major appeal of OPR is that you can play multiple games in a day, unlike Warhammer where you maybe play 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think more emphasis on that, more marketing would probably bring it in, because it is a solid base for that, right? Like people are happy to switch over, right? It fills a lot of the boxes that people are looking for. So yeah.
Yeah. It kind of is a really boring answer to put it in this term, but how do you make something successful grow? You treat it like a business. That's what you do. You invest in your product, you reallocate your personnel, you put the top brains at the top in a managerial position. It's so corporate and so boring to say, but those are the sorts of things internally at OPR that we like to see. Rangers, in terms of like publicity, Broken Truth, excellent step. 2 Broken, 2 Truth. Tano's mentioned that. That's coming. You've got a business manager, you've got marketing. All of these aspects are going. Get more events going. That's something that's really huge, but they're doing that. They're at Spiel. No events at Spiel yet. They had a tournament at Adepticon. They've got UKGE. I'm not sure what French ones there are out there, but these are some of the biggest cons that there are, the biggest conventions that there are. They're there and they're pushing for it, and just more of this is what's going to keep you going.
Yeah, and I think also, one final point for everyone, because it's been quite a long answer, but
this has been a long one. Yeah.
Now they've got things to actually sell people. That's one of the big things about cons, right? People show up with like £400 to spend, and they come up to your thing, and you get them excited, and they go like, okay, and what can I buy? and they don't really have anything like that. And now they have Broken Truth, which they can go like, here's a box, go home and play that with your friend, right? Yeah. Which it is huge for that. So and like that's great stuff.
So I don't know. Spoilers if it's the next video, but my wife and I, the reason she was here at the start of the video is because we've just recorded a video of her reviewing OPR STLs. And like, this is a woman who, she's helped paint a couple of minis. I tried to get her to play OPR once, it wasn't for her, but she was still looking at STLs and the renders and going, that's really cool. And it wasn't like the top rated in our category of how we did it. Stay tuned and check out that video for the fun twist on that. But she'd still say, like, that was my favorite, but it's the bottom of this category. And, like, there was a lot of depth there for her just appreciating the art of the sculpt. Yeah. And OPR's got friggin' cool sculpts, as we've just discussed, and I was saying about the Wood Elves. And the ability to sell those products is going to be something that is going to be beneficial for the company and helping to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's move on from that one. I apologize, my voice isn't nearly as appealing as my wife's, but she's gone to look after our son who woke up. She might make a return. I doubt it. She's probably gone to bed. Next one, YeRayLA. Thank you for your question. Do you think OPR, either of the 2 main games, could eventually develop a true competitive circuit? It seems that each local gamer community uses a different set of optional and/or advanced rules. What do you think should be the standardized rules package to turn OPR into a widely competitive game?
I think
we could browse on this one. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the smallest and most essential requirement to have a competitive circuit is to have players who are willing to travel, right? They need to be able to show up to the events to gain the points to have a big tournament, right? So there needs to be an incentive for that, right? And I think currently that doesn't exist. Right, like okay. there like I won a tournament recently, and I got I got an OPR book, like the law book, and some minis and stuff like that, right? None of which is like, I mean, I probably paid £100 to be there, right, with my train ticket, right? So you're not going to get people involved until there's a reason to do it, right? And if there was a $5,000 cash prize at the end, you then start getting people moving, right? And you might invite the wrong crowd, but if there was something there that was worth having, then that's like that's the minimum requirement for these kind of competitive circuits to work. Which I just don't think OPR is anywhere near at the moment. I think, if it keeps growing, then yeah, you could start to see stuff like that. It's definitely not the focus of the company. At the end of the day, right, like OPR is OPR is a SDL company, right? It's not like they make games, yeah, but they make their money from SDLs, and a competitive circuit isn't selling SDLs. So I think maybe we'll see some fan circuits, right? Like I think the UK community is kind of like barreling in that direction at the moment, right? There's lots of great tournament advisors who are starting to kind of come together. But yeah, I'm not sure we'll ever see it really until there's actually a way of, I think also like there needs to be someone in the company who gives a damn about it. Yeah. And I don't think anyone, like Tano, obviously he's not opposed to a competitive thing, but he does a competitive pack every year, and, but it's not one of his, like, he's not motivated to do it in the same way that, if you said to me, go make a competitive circuit, I would be. So we'll see, I guess, is the answer. I think if the company grows and there's space for people in the company who are excited to make this happen, then yes. And if they can get enough cash to incentivize it, then yeah. But if not, then probably not. We'll just be stuck where we're at now, right? Which is just having a bit of fun and a couple of tournaments here and there every year.
Yeah. I think you've hit on a couple of important points that really indicates it. Don't get me wrong. The answer to this question in my mind is yes, it could develop a true competitive circuit. But the decision makers at OPR are in the mindset of what OPR was born to be, which is fun, narrative war game first. And that's not a criticism. I want to be very clear about that. This is a competitively minded channel. There is absolutely no criticism on that. We just think that OPR has got the legs to be a wonderful competitive game, and so we will advocate for it.
Yeah.
I don't think the game and the business and the company is in a position yet to launch a true competitive circuit, and so it is in the hands of the players. But they are supporting it. The Rangers program rolling out, that is one way of doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
It is on the players to develop that now, and that's fine, because you can't talk about something in a war game context without also shining a torch to Warhammer, right? And Games Workshop. And their competitive circuit is so strongly driven by the community. And that's fine. That's really not a bad thing. Magic the Gathering, Wizards and Hasbro, and trading card games and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! They are more company driven, but it's a slightly different business model. It's a different business product. We talk about business a lot here, but these are the motivators, I think, behind these questions. Which is, what does the spirit of the company that is designing the game that you're playing want, and what are their goals? And at the moment, it's not a true competitive circuit. They're not averse to it. I think Tano's mindset, from my optics, and I haven't spoken to him about this, and he'd probably say I'm wrong, which is fair enough, but from an optics perspective, I think he is far more welcoming of competitive players now than perhaps he once was. And that's positive.
Maybe, yeah, I think to your point about card games, right? Like the incentive for card games is they release new sets, right?
Yeah.
And so there's it drums up a lot of excitement around that, and people want to know what the best decks are and stuff like that, right? Whereas you don't really get that in wargaming, right? Like you can kind of get it, right? Like there's a new patch or whatever, right? And they've like rejigged some stuff, right? Like anyone out there who plays like Dota, right, or League of Legends, they tend to make these big patches that change the game quite a lot. They keep the core experience the same, but they'll like add a whole new feature, like read your talents or whatever.
Yeah.
And wargaming doesn't really have that, right? And if wargaming had that, then I think there's a lot more potential for these like big events. But I just don't think, it's just not supported properly, I don't think.
Yeah. The answer to the question, pure on its face value, is yes. It could eventually develop a true competitive circuit. The second limb of the question, which we will come to answer now, is what do you think should be the standardized rules package to turn it into a widely competitive game? Yeah. I know what your answer is, so go ahead and say it.
Base OPR?
base OPR is yours, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to grow a scene, then the way you grow the scene is by not changing the game completely when someone goes to play it, right? Yeah. Like, obviously, it's nice to have some variety in there, and you keep players with some variety. But if people go like, "Oh, I'm a bit worried about playing my first event," and then they look at the pack and they go like, "This is nothing like what I'm used to," right? Like, I don't really recognize any of the rules here. Then that's going to make it a lot less likely that someone will then take the risk of going to this thing. So yeah, base game I think is probably the way to go. Maybe for like bigger competitive stuff, then you stand more of a chance with like the yearly packs that he releases. But overall, I think it's a bit more welcoming to not have that be the case, and just have the game stand on its merit, right? Like the game is fun. It doesn't need any more rules on adding. It's tactical enough, right? Yes, it might get stagnant if people play it the same way for a long time, but you can change the armies to change that. You don't need to change the game.
Yeah. And I agree. But if you did want to add on to the base game, I think that one of the things that would be good for it, that would also be a bit of marketing. And again, back to the whole business, there's a lot of business in this, but that business aspect of feeding the company more money to support things like these events, to generate more interest, to generate more revenue for the company, and then form this circuit, what's this called, this loop. One of the things that if you were going to set base game as the standardized way of playing for events, but bring in a bit of spice, draw on the advanced rules. Say that I think that if you wanted to make it more reductive and less of a barrier to entry that perhaps the competitive pack is at the moment, you could say that this season, the supported special rules for our events is advanced actions. And here is a page of advanced actions, or here is 4 advanced actions that are in every single event. That is a bit more crunch. It's a bit of diversity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the entire page out of the advanced rules. But at the bottom of it, you could say, drawn from advanced rules. For more information, see drivethroughrpg.com/OPR/grimdark future advanced rules, whatever. Make sales that way. It's $5, pounds, euros, $9 Australian dollars, whatever.
Yeah.
That gets you that. It's not much, but it goes, oh, cool. So this is in there. Oh, what else is in that document? Oh, that's relatively affordable, certainly in the context of other war games in the market. Let's put some money into the company to get it. And like that builds it up in a way. It adds crunch for those people who might think that the base game isn't quite so deep and dynamic. And I think that'd be a way to make it a bit more spicy. But I do agree that the base game is great. And so go with that.
Yep, for sure.
Thank you, LA. Grumpy Wolf asks his first question of a few of them. Well, we have already seen some. Grumpy Wolf, thank you for your questions. Really important one, Harvey. Why aren't you guys as cool as Warboss Fitz?
I think we're not as cool as Warboss Fitz, which I'm not going to argue the premise of the question. That's fine. I don't think we're trying to be as cool as Warboss Fitz. I think that's what it comes down to, right? I think if we really tried, we could be as cool as Warboss Fitz.
Yeah.
But it's just something we're not interested in. We're competitive at the game, but we're not competitive when it comes to being cool. Like that's not really what we're here for, right? So yeah, if Warboss Fitz wants to try really hard to be cool, then he can be like that. But that's just not the way we are, right? Like, come on, we're not in school anymore, are we?
Every day is a school day. I just strive one day to be as good at rolling dice as swingily as Uncle C does, because that man, he either he's feast or famine every single time. I don't think I have anything to add to that one. Also, that's not my pound in the Warboss Fitz jar. I just want that to be known.
No, that's Grumpy Wolf. Grumpy Wolf, we'll be expecting the payment soon.
Yeah. X7 Juggernaut 7X. Juggernaut, do you prefer casters versus auras that magnify / enhance key traits and rules of certain units? For example, Bane in melee on AP4 punching destroyers, Devout boost on shooty sisters, or Ferocious boost on orcs with a hero versus having a caster. Which do you think gives the most faction? And what are some factions with spells so good that you have to have caster instead of aura? A series of questions there that could be a video series in itself.
let's start at the very end. Rat men.
Ratman.
Have a spell list. Yeah. So the caster versus aura thing really boils down to risk, right? Most casting lists have access to similar-ish buffs that you can get through auras. A classic example from the previous version of the game, which isn't really this case anymore, but I'll use it as an example, is Blessed Sisters. Blessed Sisters. On their jetpackers, you could embed a hero, and the hero could either give them like +1 to hit while shooting, or they could get like double exploding sixes through spell casting or something like that, right? So you got two very. Oh no, it was like defense debuff versus +1 AP or something, right? And so the only difference there is that the caster has a chance of failing. But the caster also has much higher potential, right? Because you could come down with your caster, and then you could cast your -1 defense debuff, and you could also cast a level 2 and a level 1 on some 50/50s and go from there. I think that casting in the current version of the game is it's not very appealing as compared to what it used to be, right? Before Tough got buffed, there was a lot more like Tough 1, Tough 3 things kicking around. Nowadays, you can fit a lot of Tough 12 into your list. And I think casters base level struggle with that stuff, because where they really get their value is like pinging off a couple of guys over there and then doing the thing they were going to do anyway, or like a charge or something, right? So you damage 2 units. That doesn't work against tough stuff. So it often can feel like wasted points. And then you have to pivot into this kind of buff playstyle or whatever, or debuffs. Which is why Ratman is so good, because they have 6 hits AP4 on a single model, which is just great, right? You can use that to snipe auras, you can use it to kill tanks, all sorts of stuff like that, and 6 hits AP4, which if the spell goes off, they might just not roll a 6 and then they'll have to morale check, which is a nice little break point. So I think it basically always comes down to risk versus reward. If you have an aura you can't get from somewhere else, then always take the aura, because normally it's going to be something really good, right? Range Slayer aura obviously is so great. But if you can get it from your casters, I'm of the opinion that you should try and use casters, because the potential for casters is really high, and they are the inverse of auras in that if you embed a hero in a unit and the unit starts losing models, the aura is worth less. Right. Yeah. Whereas casters don't have that, right? If you have a unit of 10 and a caster in it and they kill 10 models, you go, I don't give a fuck, right? Because I still have my caster who's going to blow up your unit. So it's a little bit more high risk, high reward. But I think, that's basically where it comes from. So specific combos, like you mentioned, Bane in melee, I'm more on the caster side, despite that.
I think in armies where the hero uffs, I've tried to say auras and buffs, where the hero aura and buffs are so valuable that you can't leave home without them, then I'll be taking those over caster. What armies am I thinking of when I'm saying that? Human Defense Force is at the forefront of my mind because of Precision Shooter buff. At the time of recording, there's the tank hero who's got it. I understand that is anticipated to change in the forthcoming balance patch. Who else have we got?
I mean, there are some auras as well that you just can't get from spellcasting, right? Like Scout aura, right? There's no way you're ever going to be able to get that from a spell.
Yeah.
Same with ambush aura, stuff like that. Yeah. So obviously those are exceptions to this rule, but most spell lists nowadays you can find the buff in the spell list as well as in the auras. So especially for boosts,
there aren't that many where I think that is really such a thing. The other would be where the armies don't have access. Either they don't have access to caster 3, or their caster 3s are very expensive. So ogres is a really difficult one to manage, because their heroes are all tough 6 and therefore are expensive, but they've got 6 hits AP2 as a damage spell, and that is so potent. Along with, if you need it, destroy a buff, boost, or whatever, they have got very good spells at their disposal. So that's one where I'd want to bring caster, but you're going to struggle because of the cost of it to get multiple in. So I think it's like the key auras and buffs are the top, then caster, then other auras, and the like kind of feed into it. But I think that with you kind of touched on, there were 2 dials that shifted in 3.5. One was the tough buff, so Tough 12 became cheaper, but 2 was the caster damage nerf, and casters are 70-30 damage dealers versus buff units and buff bots. There are a few exceptions, but that really is the weighting of it. And so casters and heroes in general, are a bit lower down the list.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point as well. In general, I'm only using heroes when I have a very specific use case for them. A lot of armies don't have a cheap one. Yeah, well, naked heroes, yeah, that's true. But yeah, in terms of like the aura spellcasting thing, like unless I have a very specific use, I'm probably taking neither. Is the honest truth.
Yeah,
you have to have a really good spell list for it to be worthwhile in the current game, I think. And if you're taking a hero, you're taking it for the aura attached to it, really. But that damage multipliers. So, do you want to commit more to a single unit, or would you rather have stuff split out around your army? It's a list call, really.
Yeah, and then there's a load of exceptions like that fall within good naked heroes, the Gecko teleporty guy, Dark Elf Raiders, and then martial prowess dudes, things like that. That are you look at it and in isolation it's good, but that's where that falls. Thank you very much. Moving on, Bat 2069 says, from your own experience in events, tournaments, and meetings, and considering there are a lot of players not going into competition or preferring narrative aspects, what is the best way to conduct a good narrative event? What is the best structure or organization of the event from our perspective? The chain of rounds and battles, what level of advantages and benefits from one battle to the other? You've got plus minus 10 to 15%, keeping a good balance. I'm not sure about what that is. About mixing firefight, battle, and warfleet formats. That's quite interesting. We can talk about that. Do's and don'ts, links and sourcing to past events and documentations or testimonies, and the possibility of a specific dedicated session about a narrative game, maybe. Whole load of questions there, but the theme of that is narrative events.
Okay, so narrative events. I think there are a couple of things that make a narrative event better. First of all, obviously, a narrative event has to have a narrative. There has to be something going on it, right? And I think first and foremost, in my mind, narrative events are social events.
Yes.
So I think if you encourage social stuff, then it's good, right? I think that the more that your players interact with each other in teams or whatever it might be, then the more success you're going to have across the narrative event. So if you can find a way of drumming up that, then I think that'll benefit massively, right? Because oftentimes you go to narrative events and the narrative is lost, right? Because it's like from mission to mission, and you kind of follow a rough idea, and it's kind of there, but not really. The second thing I'll say is, you don't need to make rules to make narrative fun, right? Like I think a thing that often happens with narrative events is people go a bit wild with the changes to the rules and stuff like this, and it actually makes the games harder. You spend more time thinking about the game, right? Oh, it's the start of round 2. I need to figure out if that tree is going to come to life or not, instead of the game just being rolling dice, having fun. So I think try and avoid that kind of stuff instead. Stuff like having players come up and roll dice against each other, have teams and have team leaders, and team leaders pick representatives each round to roll a big dice against the other team, and silly things like that is going to drum up a lot more interest. And then while that's going on, you can tell the narrative story, right? Okay, like at the end of that round, this team won, right? Because you guys got more things, and because of that, this now happens in the narrative world. I need you to come up and roll a dice, and that means it's a snowstorm and whatever, right? I think. The good narrative flow comes in between the missions, not the actual missions themselves. I would say that for sure. What else was in the question?
Loads. Best way to conduct a good narrative event. I agree with you on that. Best structural organization of the event from our perspective. So it's really hard to say what is best. We've played a lot of narrative events where there are a lot of game rules, special rules on the missions being introduced. I'd like to see more narrative events where the narrative is the focus rather than the game, because then it's an event, it's a social event instead. How do you do that? I don't have a quick and easy answer for, but play around with it. If you're thinking about running your own narrative event, start with less is more. You don't need 5 special rules in a game to make it special. You need 1. Really, if that, right? And then, as Harvey said, have something happen in between rounds. It doesn't have to be a game-changing decision, but give the players some decision. It's like D&D. Give the players some decision that has some impact. It doesn't have to change everything,
Yep.
But just something that's memorable, right? People care more about the memorable moments than they do about changing the world. And so have a big silly dice. This has happened, and now you players can make a decision on where the next thing happens in this regard. Aspects like that can be fun.
I think oftentimes in narrative events, they tend to do asymmetrical games, which is fine, right? Like, I'm not here to say that's a bad thing. But the decision about which side you're on, it tends to be decided by whether the team's won or lost, right? Which is a missed opportunity, right? Because if your team's won, let's say that means that you would have gone the defending side. Instead, have the players come together and decide, right? Like have them chat and have them get involved with each other, right? Maybe try and match teams against teams, so then you can drum up a bit of competitiveness across the tables. Try and put them on tables near each other, right? Maybe introduce mechanics that let you influence other tables, right? Like, every player has a reroll they can give out, right, to one of their other friends, right? And all of a sudden, you've got people chatting, you've got people get involved, you've got teams, which makes the narrative stronger, right? Because all of a sudden, you're like the White Knights, and you care about taking the land for your lady or whatever. So yeah, I think a lot of that stuff, it comes from a more social side. If you're a part of a group that's less social, then I think you can stick more to just like including the narrative bits between the games. And then that will keep the narrative aspects of it flowing. Because what you don't want to do, because at the end of the day, like, you want people at your event. That's all you really want, right? You want to fill the hall that you've booked out, and you want to get away some silly prizes or whatever. And I think, the narrative stuff needs to not get in the way of that. So very complex packs can drive some people away. One thing that the Bristol guys do around when they do their narrative events as well is they give all the teams like things. So like they have these like heroic things that each team can do. So if you're part of like the grey team, you can choose to fail a morale check. And if you do, you get 1 hero point, which I think is something you could take to the next level, right? Like you could make it a bit more interesting, and you could maybe make them all boons instead, right? So you could do stuff.
You choose to have a drawback in order to later get a benefit, right? And the way that it's been done is, bad thing happens to you voluntarily, then you get points in the overall tournament, which is great. The player, the human, doesn't feel the benefits of that. And sometimes will never feel the benefits of that because you won't get a prize at the end. And even so, that's 8 hours away. One of the things you could do is narratively, this hero's failed a morale check, or this hero is under a morale check and voluntarily fails it, so that I may choose another morale check later in the game to pass automatically, right? That person has given up their life, and so I will take the heroism of it. Simple, game impacting decision, and benefit for the players immediately tangible. I think that's something, just if you're going to do it, business and psychology here. That's what Dave's on the bloody mindset about today. Play to the psychology of the fact that you've got a load of monkeys rolling dice in your hall.
Yeah. I think if you've got points that they're getting for things that are going on, print off some coins, some big shiny gold coins, and then people can look smug when they have 8 of these coins, right?
Yeah.
That's like classic board game psychology, right? Like, I don't care. Like, if I have a stack of things in front of me, I feel smug about it. Do stuff like that. Maybe have the teams grow as well, right? Like at the end of every round, maybe the teams get together and they pick a boon for the next round. Right? They've got a couple of selections. People are going like, oh, well, actually, like, I'm playing Dow, so I really love a shooting one, right? And, you have a bit of discussion there or something. And you can have that play into the narrative as well. Like, if you lose, then maybe you pick 2 or whatever it is. I don't really know. But yeah, I think, the best way of selling a narrative event. Oh, another thing, actually, sorry, that we've seen done before is the Cheltenham lot got a voice actor.
Yeah, they did,
to voice act a space pirate, and did a bunch of announcements before the event with the voice actor. I didn't actually go to that event, so I don't know if they continued it throughout the day.
Every round.
So stuff like that as well can be silly, good fun, really. As for the number of games, I wouldn't go above 4.
Yeah, agree.
I think, you're there to play like a slow, casual day. You can make the day more exciting without including more games. You can include less games, right, and have stuff in between. Or you can have stuff happening in the rounds that might slow the round down, such that the games are a bit longer, and that's fine as well. But yeah, I think it's just finding the balance between like having some wacky stuff happening, but making sure it's not interfering too much, right? Like,
Yeah.
let people do fun, cool things, right? Like, people love like power tripping on things. And yeah, so have a mess around with some of the ideas you presented there. But whatever you do, don't make events, don't make games that are like, at the end of round 1, roll 63 and add them all up and divide by 4, and then that number is the number of goblins that appear, and now roll 8 scatter dice to put the goblins down. Like,
Yeah.
People like OPR.
The more lines of text, the worse it gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, and you should be able to.
The brand for OPR.
You should be able to sell your narrative without adding complexity to the game as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, we played one recently actually where there was like, in the last round, you had a gun that you had to control, and if you controlled the gun, it shot the other bunker, right? And stuff like that is kind of cool. Didn't get too much in the way. I don't know how balanced it was in the end, but yeah, like if you have things to put down on the tables that can drive the narrative as well, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I will say from experience on 2 points, one idea is one that I did in the event I ran last year, which was a quasi slow grow. It was 5 rounds. First 3 rounds were 1,000 points. The last 2 rounds were 1,500, or maybe it was 2 and 3 the other way around. Yeah. Which everyone was really excited about going into it. But then people at the end were like, that was great, but I did get a bit confused. Like, I wasn't sure, and it felt strange, and the change was different. And that was something that we tried and people were excited about, but afterwards people said, you know what, actually that wasn't as great as we thought it would be. And we were like, all right, cool, good lesson. So that's something that may sound good that wasn't. But one of the things that in that ilk that is good, which you touched on here, is mixing Firefight, Battle, and Warfleet. We did a summer campaign the year before, where it was over the course of the summer, I think you had to do 2 skirmish games, and then on the day of the event, it was 3 battle and 1 skirmish games. Yeah, and it was like you were put in teams for the control of a planet. That worked all right. That worked pretty well. Yeah, it did require players to go and play games outside of event time, which sometimes was a bit tricky, but Tabletop Simulator helped there. So that was something that did work in quite an all right way.
I also you can take some advice from video games, right? Video games are the ultimate like narrative creative thing, right? And people buy into video games for the narratives. So let players make decisions about their teams, maybe, put them in teams, but have them not have alignment, right? And then after each round, have them discuss as a team what they want to do next. Give everyone the same result. A narrative event doesn't need to be all 4 teams are part of different factions doing different things. It can be 4 teams having the same experience throughout the day and playing stuff and making decisions off the back of it, right? Like going to the next round, you guys are now fighting for this area. And if you win, you can make one of these 2 decisions or whatever, right? And give little bonuses or whatever you want to players. So yeah, take something out of like roguelikes and stuff like that, which can have this narrative drive through the middle, despite it being basically the same game on repeat. Which is very similar to an OPR narrative.
Another idea as well is if you do a team event, make the team a big team, like 4 people in the team. Say you have 4 teams of 4, 16 players. And round to round, the 2 people who are playing together changes. So throughout the course of the day, you'll play with 3 different people on your team and however many different people on the other side. And that's another way of improving your social encounters whilst maintaining the level of complexity in the game. You don't have to change the game too much at that point because just the variety of armies that you've got coming is going to change it. So there are loads of different ways about doing it. I think that the big things to say are keep it simple, focus on the people, and those 2 points there, they'll drive forward your narrative. And then otherwise, if you want to make it character driven, make people name their characters. We've done that. Some people have enjoyed it. Some people have just not engaged with it, and that's fine. There are little things like that, but yeah, focus on the people and keep it simple.
Yep.
Thank you very much. The scroll bar on this Discord thread is not going down very much here as we go.
Before we start recording this, Dave's like, I think this is going to be a short video. Right, like you said a couple of days ago, you're like, oh, it'll be a couple of hours, it'll be fine, right? I was like, there's literally no way. Last time we did a Q&A, it took forever.
It did.
So yeah, what's this question 3?
I don't even know if it's that. Yeah. No, we're a bit further down. We had a wee cooler than Fitz one.
That's true.
Stab my face off. It's not an invitation. Thank you for your question. Mathcore episode, where you go deep on BalVal. rolling into different defense values with different armor values, taking into account all their extra rules like 9-inch +1 for whatever. I want to feel like I'm taking statistics class again. Listen to Harvey talk more, really, if you want that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. This is a video idea we might steal. We've spoken on the channel before about 6 wounds being a really great break point. So I think it could be fun to just throw some stuff at a wall and see how many of them actually end up in that 6 wound category and stuff. So I will write that down for a list idea. For a
video idea.
Too much OPR on the brain. For a video idea. But
yes, I mean, on the brain and an OPR video is some statement to make.
We do love our maths around here. It's fun to talk about. I don't know how practical it is. One thing actually I was talking to Dave about earlier is average.
Yeah, we have this,
right? So when you have, let's say a model has 6 wounds and you on average do 7 wounds to it, that sounds really good, but actually the underlying probability might be that you actually only have like exactly a 50% chance to kill it, even despite your average being higher or whatever. So knowing whether you've got like an 80% chance to kill it or a 99% chance to kill it or whatever is way more relevant, which is not something we've touched on before as explicitly. So maybe we'll throw together some spreadsheets and put out a video that you and 4 other people will enjoy, but that's how it goes.
That'll be one of the ones where it's like, why has this got 90 views after 7 days? I'm not quite sure.
We've earned 7p from it.
Jake, what brings you joy outside of it? Jake's got 2. What brings you joy outside of OPR? Mine is...
What does he mean by outside of OPR? What's he saying there? What does that mean?
I think non-OPR topic based.
You can be outside of OPR. I'm not sure that's.
What about when OPR is inside of you? No, that's way too intense. Mine's a really basic one that I just freaking love my kids.
God, say your kids, you'll lose it.
I'm saying my kids. I'm saying my kids. I never thought I'd like being a dad. Never thought I'd like it. Like, didn't want kids before I met my now wife. And it's freaking awesome. I saw Instagram or a TikTok the other day about the separation between people with kids and people without, and there's always going to be a separation because the 2 categories of people will always understand when I complain about it. I'm really fucking tired. My daughter won't listen to me, and I've cleaned up 6 dirty nappies today, and someone without kids goes, that's shit, and I can empathize with that being shit. But people without kids will rarely, if ever, understand the pride that I feel in watching my daughter learn to ride her scooter and playing catch with her, watching my son sit up and learn to beat a drum, and he's 6 months old, and the smile that little bastard gives me whenever, well, he's not actually a bastard, we're married, but whenever I walk into a room and he smiles at me, right? All of those things are so primal, and it brings you a joy that I never thought I'd know, and I fucking love it. To give you a non-base answer of what do I enjoy outside of that?
Fucking birds and go in the pub, mate. That's it.
What else do I enjoy? I swear I have more character and personality outside of that, which I'm going to think about, but I'm going to take the easy one. I'll think about it and let Harvey have the answer to that. Give an answer.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like I'm filling out a dating profile when I'm answering this question, actually. Yeah, what are you interested in? Things that I take pleasure in outside of recording OPR videos and playing OPR. I really love going to the gym. I really love working out. I'm constantly socializing. I'm like, it's my big thing, right? Like I try and get out basically every single weekend, go see some friends, go hang out. That's my huge drive. And outside of that, like I code for my day job, but I also do freelancing on the side. And I really, really love like any sort of problem solving, right? Which should come as no surprise to people who have an understanding of the content on the channel. But yeah, I just think there is something really great about building little projects that people then go and use. I mean, like you've seen stuff like the OPR data table and stuff like that, which obviously is OPR is cheating. But yeah, I really, really love that kind of stuff. But for me, yeah, it's mostly trying to get out of the house, do some exercising and seeing friends and stuff like that because yeah, I do coding for a living and I do a YouTube channel for fun. So sometimes it's good to get off your ass.
I will say that other things that do bring me joy are like, so those of you who've listened to us for a while, I'm a lawyer, and the more experienced I get, the less I feel like a fraud. Like imposter syndrome is something that's so commonly spoken about, rightly so, in a lot of professional workspaces at the moment. And I feel like in law, it is very common. I'm I mean, even on this channel, right? I'm not the technical one. You're the technical guy. I'm the face. I'm the sex appeal. But in a legal professional perspective, there are people in my team who I'm like, how the hell am I ever going to shine a torch to your technical knowledge, your skill set, your ability to sculpt arguments, right? But then I have things like, I recently had a really complex case come across my desk, which obviously I can't talk about, but it was the sort of thing that I went into a call with clients, 2-hour call later, and everyone was really happy with my advice and my result, and I had glowing recommendations, and it fed up to my boss, who fed back to me and was like, hey, I've heard this feedback and it's great. And I'm like, I blagged that. I feel I blagged it, right? Like I don't feel worthy of that praise, but then I've done my advice note, and like things are going well, and I'm like, hey, I'm growing, I'm developing, and that brings me joy.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that as well, I have to say, sunshine, fucking, it's April, seasonal depression, get in the bin, sunshine brings me joy. That's something to be said as well. OPR related, what do you think OPR's biggest strength and weaknesses are as a system?
Biggest strengths and weaknesses as a system. I mean, the biggest strength, but I've mentioned it already in this video, is the duration of the games, right? The simplicity of them. I think that's super, super great. I think the weakness OPR has got, and I think this is more of a flavor thing, is I think that the armies, despite now having army wides and stuff, still don't feel like you're making a real decision, right? I think when we do a lot of conversations on the channel, we're talking about picking the best units, as opposed to like investing in the army as a theme. And I think that continues to be the weakness, right? And I think that continues to be the thing that keeps Warhammer players away as well, right? I think when I've shown OPR to a couple of people now, and then when they look at it, they go like, oh, well, I play orcs. What do orcs get? And I go like, oh, their sixes hit one more time. And they go, right, and then what else they get? And you're like, oh, no, that's it, right? Like, yeah, there is nothing more that they get on top of that other guys don't get. They have slightly different like stat array, right? And it's easy to play as a result of it, right? But they don't have like the feeling that they're orcs, right? They don't have that feeling attached to them. So I think that's one of the things that it's missing. It's missing just like something that when you open up the army, you go, that's something I've not seen before, and it's exciting and interesting and might inform how I play, unlike the current versions of the armies, which is, that is something, and it's going to make me do more damage or make me survive a bit longer. It's not really going to influence my play.
Armies don't get.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, biggest strength is accessibility. Like my pitch to you years ago now was, come play this game with me and I'll explain it to you in 10 minutes, right? Or it's 1 page of rules. Like that aspect. I recently had an intro game between 2 dads. Dads of young kids notoriously have not got very much time on their hands. These guys both loved wargaming. They couldn't find the time to play Warhammer. And I said, give me 45 minutes of your time and you will be playing OPR on your own, unsupported. I only need to be there for 20 minutes. Come to my garage. I'll give you beer. I'll put the minis in front of you and you'll be playing. And it took me 20 minutes. And I literally said, right, you're going to set up your minis. You're going to take in turns and do this. That's your infantry. That's your beast. These are your shooty guys. Go. And they did it and they understood that. And I went, here's how it works. You take it in turns to do this. 20 minutes later, I went, I'm going to go and refill our drinks. And I came back and they'd played an entire extra round on their own. Brilliant. That's
easy.
That's it, really. Weaknesses as a system, you said about individuality, so I'm not going to take that. I'm going to just say, take a stronger stance on their lore. The Fantasy World book, my biggest criticism of the Fantasy World book is the lack of proper nouns and names. I want to know who are the names of the twins or whatever it is who cause the Havoc Gods to return. Things like that, right? Give me
characters to invest in.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say. That's one of the weaknesses, and I appreciate, like, we've got this generic ruling, generic name thing that's come to OPR. The welcome to everyone is absolutely fine for OPR, but at the same time, have a brand, have a story, make people invest in it. That's one of the weaknesses that I'd like to see develop a bit more. It is developing. You can't compare it to everything else in the world. that's been there for a lot longer, and that's fair enough. But do it stronger, I think. I'd just like to see a bit more intensity.
Yeah, I mean, my stance as well on the lore stuff is like it already gets called like a knockoff Warhammer, right? Like we don't need our lore to also be very similar. Yeah. Right? Like, it's okay if the lore was nothing like Warhammer, because people who like Warhammer lore are not
like
going to...
Warhammer lore, right?
Yeah, they're not going to jump ship, right? Then you're not going to make a more grimdark version of Warhammer, right? It's just not going to work. So play to your strengths, right? Find interesting stories to tell in the universe you've made, and don't feel the need to retell stories.
Yeah.
Because I think the Necron High Elf thing, that's a Necron Eldar, that is a...
Robot Legions. Oh, is that from Warhammer?
Is that a thing in thingy as well? I think there's something about that, isn't there, in Warhammer?
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Which, yeah, I think is also an OPR thing. There's just loads of stuff like that, right? That's just like...
Oh, here I was thinking that was unique to OPR.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll Google it now while we go on to the next stuff, or you say it for the bits, but yeah.
The aspect of the way the volcanic dwarves came to be, there are a load of things that are unique to OPR that are excellent. Duchies, like the OPR unique factions are really cool. Like Duchies of Vinci, Shadow Stalkers, those guys are freaking awesome. The Eternal Dynasty, it's a bit vanilla for me, but I don't mind it that much. But it's unique. I really like that you've got... I like kind of like interplanar fantasy, and the Eternal Wardens and the Shadow Stalkers in the lore of Tyria and OPR Age of Fantasy, I think is really cool. More of that, please. Like, push that button. That's the sort of shit I'd love to see. And yes, I agree with you. Like, bin anything that is an analog of something else. So,
yeah, for sure.
The chat about like binning, well, not binning. I'm saying binning a lot, very strongly. But the stuff about like rewriting the Battle Brothers and the Custodians lore, I think that would be excellent for OPR. Do it your own way. Don't try and do it in a way that someone else has done before, because that's what will drive forward. And you'll lose some people about that, and that's fine, I think, because you've still got the people who are doing what they do now, which is playing OPR rules in a Warhammer 40k system, for example.
Yep. I can't find anything about what I was talking about. Maybe I'll throw out my ass. But I feel like there's some lore piece that was similar. Yeah.
Brill, thank you very much. Grumpy Wolf, we love you for your many questions. What do you guys think armies with distance, army-wide rules, are at a disadvantage when compared to armies with a constant, especially boosts? There's two parts to that. First part is distance, army-wide rules are at a disadvantage. Yes. The biggest one for me is the defensives. +1 defense, -1 AP, because you don't get that when charging.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing.
Not only army-wide effects are undesirable effects, having a condition on them makes them worse. Is basically what it boils down to, right? Like, if every single army had to pick one, they'd probably all pick Orc Furious. Yeah. Right? Literally no reason why not. Exploding 6 are really good for everything in the game. So if that is the case, then no other faction or condition can ever, like, it's only going to be a worse thing. So, yeah.
And there are some conditions I think that would be okay. Like if you saw an army that was all Slayer, right? Melee Slayer or Range Slayer or whatever.
I'm not sure about that.
That's kind of fine.
So to be honest, I think like if you're doing OPR simplicity, then I don't think conditions belong in it to a certain extent, right? I think I would rather see more choice than conditions, right? Like the +1 to hit or +1 AP stuff. Yeah, I'd rather see A or B stuff, or I'd rather see some meta army things, right? So instead of units have rules, you could say armies have rules now, right? At the start of the game, pick one hero. If your guys are within 12 inches of this hero, which is very on OPR, right? They get +1 to hit, whatever, right? Stuff like that, I think would be way more compelling.
Designate one unit to be your beacon carrier, and if you're within 12 inches of that, then you go. Like,
yeah, there's a thing in Warhammer where you put down like rat holes, and then your rat guys can come out of them, right? Stuff like that, right? Immediately makes it feel like an army, and it isn't these like strange, like the whole get exploding 6s stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
The difficulty with that, I'm going to argue Talo's voice here, is that increases the complexity of the game. And Beta 3.5 was trying to do that. I don't
ever expect it. Well, I think Beta 3.5 was conditions. That was the problem, right? Like everything was conditional. right? That base theorem fight, that was the problem with it. It wasn't that was complicated because you were measuring literally everything all the time, right? Putting down things at the start of the game is actually not complex, but it probably looks more complex, right? Like it doesn't play more complex, right? Everybody gets the idea of taking something and putting it on the board and it doing something because that's what minis are, right? So that's not too hard. But if you're asking people to measure literally everything all the time, then that is a level of complexity for movement, which is fundamental to the game. It's not like, okay, you put down a barrel. If I want it to barrel, it explodes. That's very clear, very obvious. Human nature gets you by there, right? But if you're going like, okay, if you ever walk within 9 inches of any of my units, then I can roll, then I can do a barrel on you. All of a sudden, the game boils down to so much more measuring and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, to answer the initial question, conditionals suck compared to non-conditional ones. Yeah,
conditional suck. I agree. Thank you, crazy son of a. That's the end of the name. Do you think the OPR community supports OPR itself, or just uses OPR to play what they really want to play? ... 40k. That's what a leading question. Do I think it supports OPR itself or uses it to play 40k? I'm going to say 50-50 on that one.
Based on my experience at the events around the UK, I would say that there are lots of 40k converts. Obviously, I would say most people at events aren't there to play 40k. You can kind of tell by what words they use, right? People go like, "Oh, my American Dead has got mind control," right? Then you know they're probably a OPR gamer.
Yeah.
If they're like my Space Marine and this Terminator, then you can tell that really they're a 40k substitute. But I would say most of the people we're playing against are not playing basically 40k lists turned over, right? I think maybe the allegiance is probably not as strong as it seems when you look online, right? I think the people who are 40k diehards and are there to just play 40k didn't start playing in the first place. Right.
That's what I was going to say, right? Yeah. When you're saying about the allegiances, I think the people who want to play 40k and be in the 40k world are playing 40k. Yeah. I don't think they are stepping away. No. And that's fine. Fair enough. Enjoy. And I think that's why I said it's 50-50, right? The people who are going to events, I think, most of them are playing OPR to play OPR. Yeah. But I also see a load of people who are using OPR as the way of playing other narratives, a lot of them as well, their own narratives. So it's not strictly Warhammer, but other narratives in an OPR system. Yeah. And also, like one of the things that isn't asked in this question is that a good or a bad thing? And I think that if you want to play whatever narrative you want and you're playing OPR, that is a credit to OPR because it means that OPR as the game design system is more inviting than the other ones you're offered. And I think that's good.
I think this is another one of those questions as well, where it basically like 40k, that's a brand, right? That's basically what that is, right? Like if they want to play 40k, they don't actually want to play the game. They want to play with Grimsnarl the Mighty, who killed 1,000 virgins and 14 robots with his bare dick or something, right?
Name
like
four
that's the 40k
characters, Harvey.
Name 4 40k characters.
Don't say the Emperor.
Abaddon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also a dotter. I can't say the Emperor. How about Titus? That's from Space Marine, right? He's the main character in Space Marine. Yeah. I could probably just name more names that sound Roman. Other characters. Okay. How about Lord Croak? Does that count?
Yeah,
that fancy?
That is fancy.
Yeah.
I'm expecting one.
Yeah. Let me just remember any of the X-Archers for Eldar. Give me 2 seconds. I can do a bunch of more Warhammer fancy ones because I haven't played so much Total War.
You've been playing Total War. Hold on.
40k. How about how about
who was like the Farseer?
That's a great question, Dave. We're all trying to answer it right now. Let me think of some factions, and maybe I'll know some people in them. Surely some demons are in both of them, right? What's that?
Yes.
That Balagath Bal.
Oh, yeah, you're trying to say the fancy guy, right? But he's not in
Yeah,
40K.
but surely he's in 40K as
well. Daniel's not in 40K.
No, not Daniel. No, I can't remember. No, that's.
I was going to go for Eldred Ulthrin. That's who I thought you were going to go for out of
no
BalVal.
idea who that is. Never heard that man in my whole entire life.
You had the mini anyway.
Did I? Well,
yeah. So answer the question. I'd say people at events want to play OPR. People who play narratively. Go check on Felix. Oh, my favourites.
Are they in 40K?
No, not in 40K, but I'll let you have it. They want to play their own narratives, and I think that's a good thing. So that's it's absolutely fine. Noodles, Priest of Sotek, asks, do you think there is /will be /could be space for a creator armies? Oh, here we go. Creator armies and community armies in any non-casual formats. So in events, is there space for creator and community armies? If so, what requirements would you need to feel comfortable allowing these kind of custom armies in pickup games and tournaments, etc.? And there's a second question here. What about red flags? For example, AP4 and Bane being commonly cited as a problematic combo.
Yeah. So the first question is two, I guess, right? There's creator armies and there's community armies. Community armies literally never. There's just no way that anybody that the Army Force studio will ever be robust enough to prevent people trying to abuse it, right? It's simply
or
not
accidentally abuse it.
It's just not designed for that, right? It's just not. And that's like costing bugs aside and old rules still kicking around in the system aside, right? There's loads of ways of getting free points here and there and stuff, from like giving a mobile to things that you don't think it's going to move, things like that, like a mobile plus teleport, whatever it was, that kind of stuff. Creator armies, I think the creator armies slightly more, but still no. And that's because when Tano designs the armies, they all come from the same mind, which has all the same style of thinking, right? He has an idea about what he thinks is okay in the game, and he's very strict about the constraints he puts on himself for that stuff, right? The next patch, the weapons patch, and it's going to have like very strict frameworking for all the weapons, and the previous patch we just had for armies, where everyone got a mark, a this, a that, 6 spells, 5 auras, right? That's Tano's style.
He's talked about his process with us as to what is being applied, and the amount of times his where people offer suggestions and he goes, no, that doesn't work. And like people may not like the response either because it's unjustified or they don't like the justification. But you're very right. It's from one mind and one design approach. Yeah.
So the chance of something being broken is most of the time going to be an oversight as opposed to like an abuse of the way he's thinking. Whereas with creator armies, you have so many cooks, right, at that point, right? And someone is going to do something that they think is balanced and other people don't, right? So AP plus Bane is a classic example, right? There's really not that much AP and Bane in OPR. There's more now because of the army wides that give lacerate to attacks. And that's because once that was added, it wasn't then added in the context of the weapons that already existed. It was just slapped onto armies. So there's a bit more of that in the base game now, but nowhere near as much. Whereas, you can very, like, creator armies will just try and design something that's badass, and sometimes badass just falls on the wrong side of balance.
I will also
so I think also no, but maybe more.
So many creators don't play OPR very much.
Yes.
Which, like, there's no criticism on them. They have their own games, their own things to do. They're mostly miniature designers. I think there could be space for creator armies. It's not best supported at the moment. No. There'd need to be a slight shift in approach. On the community armies point, I agree with Harvey like 95% of the way, but I will say Nexus Wargaming had an idea, I don't know how well it's being implemented, but an idea for competitive scenes using only a set of community designed lists, but the same things apply, right? They were all designed by him, or him and XYZ and his community, which is a really good idea in spirit. However, having looked at those army books in execution, some of them are just busted and it doesn't work. So you need someone who's doing it. You need someone who's doing it full time You need someone who's very experienced, and
Yep.
you need someone who's playtesting it. And at the moment, the only person who's playtested and designed OPR armies thoroughly enough with enough experience to avoid it being a broken, messy soup really is Tano.
Yep.
Maybe one day, not in the current state of the game.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, if you wanted them to be used alongside base OPR armies, they would have to be brought down to the same level as OPR armies. And because OPR is not very complex, you end up in the same kind of samey mush then, right? Like, you give cool names and you might have some new abilities and stuff, but really you're going to end up with 5/5s with spears and halberds, right? Because that's the only way they're ever going to work alongside 5/5s with spears and halberds. As for the follow-up question, which is what requirements would be needed requirements would be needed for them to be used in pickup games, tournaments, etc. Requirements to be used in pickup games, I don't think there are. I think you just say to the person you're going to be playing against, do you mind if I play this list? It's a custom one. And if they care, they will say, they'll go look at it. And if they don't care, they might just say no, or they might say yes, but that's the requirement. Check with your opponent. In tournament, there is basically no requirements you could create. There's nothing. It takes 3 units for a list to be busted. So even if you start doing stuff like it must have this or must have that, you'd still be able to sneak through the cracks and stuff. So I think it's basically just unreasonable to ever have that. The only way you could ever include community lists in a tournament is if you said to people, everybody make your own community list, right? And Army Forge Studio, therefore, was the limiting factor for all of them.
Go forth and break it.
Yeah, but with the sole intention of that, I think that's the only way it ever works. Or if you did the same thing with creator armies and you went like, right, we're going to go like only creator armies this tournament and see how that goes. But I think you probably end up finding that, yes, the power level is probably a bit higher for creator armies. Yeah. So I don't think it would ever work alongside normal base OPR factions.
I agree. I mean, it can do, but if you're going for a competitive, a non-casual format, you're going to find us. You're going to find the spikes. You're going to find the people trying to break it. What about red flags? AP4 and Bane. I can tell you with confidence, Surge plus Predator, for example, is a big one. I mean, or the ability to lay a Surge plus Furious.
On 6 events. Yeah, on 6 things, right? Stacked on top of each other. Yeah, very, very potent. Things that increase quality. Things that increase attack rolls, but not quality. Yeah, you can stack those as much as you want.
Buffs,
that would be
precision buff.
Yeah, strong buffs like that.
Because if you put precision buff in a 3+ army, buffing yourselves to a 2-up, that's pretty cracked. Other breaks, stealth, like things like stealth buff or stealth aura on 2-ups.
Yeah, I mean, shockingly, things you actually find in OPR anyway. But any time that a thing says you add more or more than one, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you add 2 to a roll or -2 to a roll, that is already outside the bounds of where OPR should be playing. It's too much. So, yeah, all those things are to look out for. Any rerolls, stuff like that. Stacking defensives. Yeah, there's loads of ways of breaking OPR. And if you look through time at the really successful OPR armies like Ghostly Undead, it does some of these things. Right, like Dow does some of these things. So I mean, you only need to look as far as the strongest armies, like lots of AP4 stacking, alien hives, to then look over to custom factions and see what they would need to do. But oftentimes with the custom factions, what you'll find is they do all of those things all at once. Every unit has a cool, interesting role, which isn't true in OPR.
Thank you very much. Good Mike asks, what are your favourite campaign mechanics, not necessarily from the OPR campaign rules, that can also be used for an OPR campaign, and how do you like to play your campaigns if you play any? I've played a couple of campaigns. I don't know if you played any?
No, I am extremely low on campaigns, I think. Yeah, I think we've given advice on some people on their lists when they have growing campaigns. Because I mean, for me personally, I think that's the most exciting mechanics you could have, right? Like the ability to change your list throughout a campaign, which I think is fundamentally what a campaign is. I know you've played a couple of campaigns on the channel, right?
Yeah,
not this channel, but the previous channel. Yeah. So perhaps you can weigh in a bit more, but.
My favorite mechanics that are in OPR are units getting killed. Right, and then one player playing as an underdog, and then that player getting underdog bonuses to rolls. I thought that was actually a really cool mechanic. And then also there's a cap on it. Like, I can't remember what the range is now, but it's like if one player is X 100 points down, the other player can only bring a couple hundred more points than them, like 250 more points or something. I think that's a great mechanic. One thing that isn't in OPR campaign rules, I'd like to see the Star Quest and Fantasy Quest purchase system come in. Like, if you put bonus objectives on the table in a game that give you resources to spend, and then you can buy magic items or equipment, that would be cool. At the moment, it's just kind of like, here's some equipment in the advanced rules, and off you go. Yeah, that would be something I'd like to see some more structure to. Because as well, that's where you get your flavor. You get, this is Bodrick the Brave. I've used Harvey's NPC a couple of times now on the channel, and he has my magic enchanted arrow, magic enchanted item of knee protection against arrows, right?
Yeah.
That sort of shit. That would just make it a bit more flavoursome for me.
Yep.
Thank you. Kel says, in what ways do you feel OPR should or should not further differentiate itself from 40k and AOS? We've touched on this. I think lore is a way that it should differentiate itself a bit more. Do your own thing, go your own way, and it's already doing that, but do it with more conviction. I think now is my view on that.
Yeah, I think the difficulty they've got, obviously, is you want to have the armies match the existing armies in Warhammer, so that when someone comes over, they can go like, "Oh, I play this instead of that," right? Because that feels like the most direct and easy way of nabbing someone from Warhammer, right? If they have some, like, they can just go one-to-one with their minis. I think that if they wanted to further differentiate themselves, then I think they very quickly have to start doing their own factions and such, which they obviously have done. But I think also the kind of base structure of the factions was set in stone a long time ago and kind of reinforced that relationship between it and Warhammer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right on the lore thing. I said that before, right? I just don't think trying to like go toe to toe with the grimdark world is a thing really that needs to happen. I think instead, let's tell some interesting stories, some compelling stories, right? And go from there, right? Like just make a couple of badass characters, right? Like they already started doing it in like do lots of like skirmish campaign-y boxes, don't they? Which I think is a good start to that, but it just needs to be built out slightly more, I guess.
Yeah.
But that is once again kind of like it's differentiating itself, but it's also just doing what Warhammer does, so it's not really differentiating itself, I guess.
Well, it's what any system does, right? Like if you take. Okay, I'm going to really struggle to do it now. But if you take a fantasy world where there is a series of video games, for example, let's take the recent Star Wars games, Lone Survivor, Cal Kestis, right?
Yeah.
That is a character that was outside of canon, but people loved him, and now it's become canon. He's a repeat character, and everyone's expecting there to be a live-action adaptation of him soon. Give us characters that we care about and invested in, and have them come back. Like OPR's doing sagas at the moment, where a series of campaigns tells a story. I want to see the same character twice, and we're very early on in the days of OPR's narrative. Maybe it will happen, but I want to see it, and I want people to be like, "Hey, they're back! Oh, they've got this extra special thing." And then also in game that can be represented. I appreciate the narrative heroes are skirmish focused, but it can be like an optional upgrade of experienced or something, and they get extra attacks or a new special rule or change of special rules for their new campaign. Things like that would be fun.
Yeah, I think also something that OPR already does that it differentiates them somewhat is that obviously their mini ranges. I think that the strongest mini ranges they've got, in my opinion, is when they take something that they're obviously very constrained by the fact they're already picked to like Warhammer factions, but when they take it and they just flip it on its head, right? So I think like Blessed Sisters is probably a poor example because they're not that dissimilar to the 40k version, right? But I think stuff like Ratmen was a good version, right? Because Skaven is very different, and Jackals as well, very different. I think that kind of stuff is compelling because it makes for interesting minis. I think we're all anticipating the Battle Brothers release, right? And they did a little preview of it recently, a little test model. And to be honest, it just looked crap in my eyes, right? Like, I called it the BBB, right? Because it had little bee eyes. And I think perhaps that's a good example of where they can come up with something badass and cool that doesn't need to look like a Space Marine, right? Like, it doesn't need to have big shoulder pads. It doesn't need to be a Giga Chad, right? Like,
don't offend me again. Shoulder pads. No, I do agree with you. I think like my big bugbear about the Battle Brothers primer was it doesn't look unique or special, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the whole hoo-ha about orcs.
Yeah.
And the space orcs, and like they're not silly enough, or like there were two schools of complaint. One is they're not silly enough, and I like my orcs silly, or two, they look too much like humans. And the second criticism was a valid one and was taken on board. And the current orcs, I think, look really cool. But at the same time, the people being like, "Well, they're not silly, and I want my space orcs silly," and the response was, "Cool, please go find some silly space orcs that satisfy your wants. You're not who we're selling to." And that's really good. That's really good faith in your products. And I want more of that. And so the Battle Brothers, to me, they don't stand out enough. Why would I pick them up in a marketplace? I want to see things that are unique to OPR. I think the Rats do it really well. The Jackals do it really well. The Beastmen do it really well. Things like that.
Yeah, I think there's that element of, like, the problem with the orcs when they first released is that they were boring.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the comparison to humans, right? Like, people expect humans to be boring, right? So when you make Human Defense Force and you make them look boring, that's fine. But when you make orcs, people have an expectation of, like, it needs to be stylized, right? And I think that's what it was missing, right? Like, when people clamor for, like, the orcs, classic orc stylizations, like tusks and stuff, and like big jaws and big shoulders, right? They're looking for that, like, stylized factor. So when they put their minis down and they're 4 foot away from them at least, they can tell that they're orcs, right? And what they don't want to do is put the mini down and people go like, "What are they? What's that range? I don't even what army are you playing?"
I'd say one
you
of
just
the things
don't
that
want
is
that.
cool. Tony was looking at the orc STLs. We mentioned this already, and she went, "Oh, that's really cool. They're kind of Aztec style, right?"
Yeah.
And it's that like primitive and feathers, and that's unique and identifiable and within their theme, and I think that's really good.
But I just don't think they take it far enough, right? Like, if you're going to go the Aztec theme, go the Aztec theme, but don't, like, half-ass it, right? Like, it felt like they just basically got Rambo, right? It was like the American version of the Aztecs, right? Instead of, like, fully embracing the kind of Aztec stylings, which I think was, which was why it's just about being stylized at the end of the day. I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Warboss Fitz, never heard of him, asks, who would win, one colossal squig-sized goblin or 30 goblin-sized colossal squigs? In OPR, the 30, maybe.
I don't know where the word colossal is sitting right now. One colossal squig-sized goblin. So it's a really big squig. It's a colossal squig, I think.
No, it's a really big goblin.
Yeah, but a colossal squig is big, and then a goblin, the size of it, is therefore big.
Yeah, one massive goblin. I think the question is one massive goblin.
Yeah, okay.
Or 30 goblin-sized squigs.
Well, goblin-sized squigs are just squigs, aren't they? So what he's actually asking is, who would win a fight, 30 squigs or one giant goblin?
I think IRL, the goblin, right? It just sits on the squigs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of Ratchet and Clank now. I think Ratchet and Clank 2, they had those little fluff balls that came out of the walls, and at the very end there was a giant fluff ball that you had to fight for the last boss. And they were very easy to beat, is my recollection of them. So I'm going to go with the one colossal squig-sized goblin.
Good. We are agreed.
Yeah, I just think, like, if you put me against, like, what would be the equivalent? Goblins versus, like if you put me against 30 toddlers, right? I think I'm winning. I think I'll back myself in the me versus 30 toddlers thing. No? You back the toddlers?
Toddlers would have you, mate. They'd absolutely have you. They have very pointy elbows and they kick like fuckers.
Yeah, but if they were squigs, I'd kick them back. So I don't kick toddlers. But you get the point. I could kick a toddler. Right, next question.
How did we get
Speaking of kicking toddlers, actually, this next question.
Who would win in a 2v2? Harvey and Dave versus Fitz and Jacob from Lords of the Midwest. Shout out to those guys. Round 1 being OPR, round 2 a bar fight.
Yeah.
OPR 2v2, me and Harvey would take you every day of the week, mate. Anyone,
Yeah,
anyone
so
in the
already
world. Come on.
my stance is it's at least a draw, right?
It's at least a draw.
Because we're definitely winning round 1. They don't stand a chance. Round 2, I did some research before this video to check which one Jacob was. Yeah, because there's 2 of them, right? And you'll have to excuse my language, guys, from Lords of the Middle if you watch this video, right? There's like the beardy guy, right, who looks a little bit more like a rugby player, and then there's like the nerdy guy.
There's a big one and the little one.
Yeah, and they're talking about the big one. They're talking about So that did change my opinion somewhat because everybody knows Warboss Fitz is actually 8.5 feet tall.
Yeah, the guy's massive.
So he is basically one colossal sized goblin, right? So so he's already beating 30 squigs. Now does he beat us as well? Now, for people who haven't met me and Dave are actually quite tall, right?
Oh my god.
Dave's 6'3", I'm 6'2". We're not small lads.
Excuse me, I'm 6'3" 3/4.
Sorry, 6'3" 3/4. But I'm not sure. I mean, what's involved in a bar fight, right? Because a bar fight's like throwing benches at each other and stuff, isn't it? It's not like.
Now, do you know what? Right, I reckon that bar fight would actually end up being you versus Jacob, because I would have Fitz, because I'd go up to him, I'd hug him, and I reckon no matter how much spicy lemonade he'd have, he'd hug me back.
Yeah. I actually watched Lord of the Midwest's most recent video on going to Adepticon. So I've heard Jacob talk, and I don't know, I think he was with his girlfriend or his wife. I forget the context, but it was him and a girl talking at the end, and he sounds like a really nice lad. Yeah. So I don't know how much this bar fight's going to happen, really. I don't think any of us are equipped to actually do a bar fight.
No, I think we're all too like just chatty and cuddly.
So I'm going to go 2-0 to the Brits. 2-0 to the Brits. 2-0 to the Brits. These soft Americans, they got nothing, lad. Right? They don't know what it's like, right? We did boxing in school, right? That was one of our A-levels. It's a classic British A-level. You know?
That and invading other countries.
Red coat education. Was it red coats? Were we red coats?
Red coats. We were the red coats.
Yeah, red coat education and boxing were I majored in them for the Americans out there.
I majored in them. Nice. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dackett. I'm skipping Fitz's comments, which says he swears he's not paying people. Really, it's paying person. It's paying Grumpy Wolf.
That's true. That's what's happening. I'm starting to think it's an alt account.
Grumpy Wolf Uncle C? Is that it?
No.
Have we found it?
No.
Dr. Dacker asks 2 categories of questions. One is strategy. How do you deal with counter and counterattack as an all-melee Age of Fantasy army? If you're bringing an all-melee Age of Fantasy army, you got to have a good reason for not having at least, like, Caster in there.
Yeah, Caster's really good in Age of Fantasy, for sure. One thing I'll read out the second part of this first question, though, which is, my friend brings counterattack aura gators with prot feet, and I've literally never killed them. Which in itself answers your own question. You shouldn't be trying.
Yeah, right? there's the answer to that one.
If he's brought, I'm assuming this is a doubled up stack, because that's the kind of evil that's involved. Now, he may be talking about lots of small sets of units, which obviously makes it a little bit reductive to say just don't kill them. But the only way you deal with this kind of stuff is toughness, right? If you have a tough 12 and you charge and their counterattack aura does not kill you, then it's wasted points.
Yes.
Straight up, right? So that's how you deal with this problem. You bring lots of big stuff that doesn't care about counterattack aura, or you bring stuff like swarms that can charge, and waste out, fatigue them, right? And then your normal stuff can charge and maybe take a wound or 2, but then still gets to hit.
Say the thing that you said. I don't know if you remember this. Counterattack. Say the thing you said about counterattack that one time. Okay, I'm going to say what Harvey said once. Counterattack can feel like a bit of a trap when you're charged. Because if you're charged by a shit unit, you have to decide first whether or not you are, in effect, striking back. Whereas if you don't have counterattack and you're charged by swarms who deal 0 wounds to you, you can voluntarily choose to not attack back and have that be a tied combat and be unfatigued for your activation or next fight.
Yep. So throwing a cheap shit at it is a really good way of doing it, because they have to gamble.
Tough casters. Ignore.
Yeah, they're basically your options. I'll also say oftentimes stuff like this doesn't have Strider, right? Lots of the counter stuff, the game doesn't have mobility. Obviously, counterattack aura changes that slightly. You could get some stuff with Strider with it, but I don't think Gators have Strider. So you can also, if it is a doubled up unit, it's very immobile, right? It's very hard for it to move around difficult terrain and stuff. So make sure you've got enough terrain on the board, because a block like that should be taking up a lot of space. But yeah, if they spent 500 points on a giant counterattack gator stacked with prop feet, ignore it. If they're bringing lots of small units with protection feet, with counterattack aura, then you need a solution to it. At which point, I would suggest tough 12 as a good starting point.
Yeah, it is counterattack aura for the gators in particular here that we're looking at, but they don't have Strider, as you mentioned, right? It's protection feet, predator. They can be A3, AP2 with shred mark and be very, very scary. But this is then becoming one of the things as well to bear in mind is if you're playing at 1500 points, pretend it's a double stack with all of this stuff coming in. That's going to be like a 400-point unit. That's going to be way over a third of their bad maths. Way over a fifth of their army. Take out everything else and then make them play the objective game with one unit and see how they like it. Exactly. That's a Death Star answer as well. But yeah, those sort of points go in. How do you identify which ranged units are worth taking in AOF? I have a really short answer to this, which is 2 attacks per wound or 4 attacks per wound. Like hit your BalVal limits in Age of Fantasy in particular. High elves unfortunately suck at shooting.
Yeah, that is literally all it is. It's a very similar rule to the rest of the game, right? But if you think about it this way, you're playing a ranged unit. What does range mean? Like, what are you getting from being ranged? Well, 1, you get to attack things far away. But what that actually means is you don't get attacked back, right? So if you play them well, then you'll never take any damage. So you don't want to be spending a large proportion of your points on your wound, which is what an A1 thing is doing. It's spending about half its points on its defensive capability and half its points on its offensive capability. If you're doing A2, then it's more like 2/3, 1/3 kind of thing, which is obviously way more efficient for someone that's not trying to take damage. The other thing about ranged units is they're going to lose melee combat, right? It doesn't matter, right? They just don't, they're going to have A1 hand weapons at best. So once again, paying for that defensive thing is even less relevant because if something does ambush on top of it, they're probably dead anyway, right? So you're looking for high defense, i.e. bad, plus A2, and that's it. And I think in general, I probably wouldn't take a ranged unit that's got like 3 defense, 4 defense. I think that's probably already too much, right? I'm at least looking for ones with their qualities better than their defense. Yeah. So at least I feel I'm getting from it.
Ghost of the Undead are a good example.
I was literally about to mention Banshees. Yeah, Banshees and Wood Elves that we can get.
I was going to say the ambush things in Wood Elves. What are they called?
A lot of the demon units as well. Demon units have like A2, AP1 and stuff on them.
The new Whippers.
The Whippers,
in the Demon Onslaught release are really good. Like they are qual 5, but they're A2. A lot of them are AP1 or A2 and special rule plus the demon rule. Yeah. The War Whippers are friggin' great. They're 12 inches, so you're in danger zone. But the output they can do, especially with Warbound, is huge.
Yeah, the job of ranged units is to hold space, right? To hold space and threaten things that would normally be safe. And so if you're not holding space or threatening things, it's not doing its job, right? You get like a big stack of high elf archers and say they hit on 4s, you do 10 attacks and you spent 300 points on that. They hit 5 times and then your opponent rolls their defenses and they have, say, 50% of those and you've done 2.5 wounds for a 300-point unit in one round. And then you do that, 4 times in a game and you've only just started to contribute by the end of round 4 when the game's long over. So
yeah. You end up in a position where, remembering that Age of Fantasy is melee weighted, and there's a lot of ambush, there's a lot of increased charge ranges, right? Yeah. So your ranged units are more vulnerable by virtue of being more accessible in a melee charge. And then if you're bringing a ranged unit, typically they are worse in combat and will lose that combat. And so you can very easily just give up territory and points for free in Age of Fantasy as it stands. Worse is when you bring a hybrid unit. Like, I hate it, but the Duchies of Vinci tough 3 guys, they're really cool, but they're so expensive because they're like 4 attacks range, 3 attacks in melee, high qual, high defense. It's like, if I get charged and I'm average in combat and I'm charged by a specialist unit, I'm going to lose 300 points, 250 points of models, and it stings. It really does. Yeah. So yeah, it's not just the BalVal thing, it's balancing it in the right sort of proportion, good quality, and being able to play space well.
But it's 90% A2.
Yeah. It's 90% A2. Yeah. Other questions. If you all had to design an OPR mission that wasn't the base game, but was balanced, what would it look like? Ooh, look at you! You're uncomfortable. How do you answer that one? We talked about this recently. 0-1-1-2 progressive.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. In our progressive video, we actually spoke about how to change progressive to be more balanced. I think the things I don't have an idea on the top of my head, but what I can tell you is, if I'm designing an OPR mission that's not base game, I'm not changing the deployment zones, right? I think 24 inches apart is such an essential part of the game balance that the second you start messing with deployment zones, you immediately mess with the balance of the game, right? Because this is like you're designing a mission, just a mission, right? That isn't the base game balance. What's it look like? It's got deployment zones that are 24 inches apart. Now they can be whatever you want, right? You could do zigzag deployment zones as long as they are like 24 inches apart, right? Like it's fine, right? You could do little cutouts or whatever you want. As long as you're not immediately shafting slow armies, then it's okay in my books. It also would not include objectives that move, right? Especially not objectives that move randomly, right? So either are removed randomly or shift around randomly or are carried by units. The game would be deterministic, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean deterministic like it always plays out the same way, which is what deterministic means, but you can have it randomly play out, but you find out at the start of the game how it's going to play out, right? So if you're going to remove objectives, you roll all 4 rolls at the start of the game, and then the game plays deterministically, even if it didn't play
what the random effect
you
is.
know what's about
more
to happen.
Than one turn in advance. So,
exactly, yeah.
Can I pitch you my mission design?
Go ahead.
Which is, it's not quite that. But it's close. There are 4 objectives on the board. At the end of each round, you get 1 point per objective controlled. At the beginning of round 1, you roll to randomize 1 objective. In the next battle round, that objective is worth double. And then at the start of the next round, you do it again for the following round. So you roll in total 3 times. No objective can be the valuable marker more than once, so it can't be doubled more than once. I think, you do this with like 3 objectives or whatever, because what it means is, as the game goes on, in the later rounds, even when you don't know exactly which marker is going to be worth double, you know it's going to be one of 2.
Yep.
So you can build your strategy around that. And either you do it at the end of one round, you roll for the next round, then you have to do it very quickly. But if you do it at the start of round 1, you know what the double bonus is at the beginning of round 2.
Yep.
You can play round 1 to sculpt around that. And then at the beginning of round 2, you roll for round 3, you sculpt round 2 around that. And then say you do it with 4 objectives. Going into round 4, you know it's one of 2 objectives. Going into round 3, you know that the valuable one in the round 4 is going to be one of 2 objectives. So you're still playing a game where you are maybe taking risks, but there is less than a complete wild randomness of what's going to be your double point objective.
I think the interesting thing about that idea is if you roll at the start of round 3 for what's going to be the double objective in round 4 is what you suggested, right?
Yeah.
You know what the double objective round is in your current round, right? And you know what the one is for the next round. So what you've actually done there is you've gone like, which do you want to play for, right? You've added a bit of risk management to the game, which I think is really interesting because you can go like, I think I can win this in round 3, or you can go like, actually, I'm not going to win that, and I can start moving towards round 4 to give myself a better chance. Right? So yeah, I think that the core of it, I love that idea. It's great. Is as long as you know what's going to happen before it happens, and you can play for it, then it's fine, right? And because OPR itself has randomness in it, and the way your opponent moves has randomness in inverted commas about it, right? So there's already enough variance in the game where you don't also need the game you're actually playing to do it. The other thing I do is if you want to include wackier things, which I'm not opposed to, they have to be symmetrical. Right? They have to be symmetrical. If you're like, I always use it as an example, but like random meteors fall, right?
Yeah.
Then it needs to hit both sides of the board in the same place. And once again, you need to know ahead of time, right? It needs to affect both armies the same amount, which makes it very, very challenging because some armies are going to be better into that than other ones or whatever. But that still makes it balanced. It just makes it more difficult to like find something that's going to work perfectly like that. Yeah, because if you said like you're caught in an eldritch wind, and at the end of every round you both roll 1 for each number of units, and whichever unit it lands on takes 8 deadly 3 hits. That is symmetrical, but it's not very fair.
No, yeah.
Right.
The custodian player is going to hate their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas like the goblin player is like, ooh, it's great. So yeah, that's what I think about that. I think it's the less you do for things, the closer to base OPR, the closer you are to balance in inverted commas, because not only because it's simpler, but also because people are more experienced at it. Right. One of the huge things that happens in events all the time is people just don't understand the missions, and that's why they lose or win. Right. We've played in enough tournaments now to know that if you've practiced the round even once before the game day, you have a huge advantage, right? A huge advantage, because you know, because you're going to play something once to get a good idea about which side you pick or what strategy to go for, what army list to bring, all this kind of stuff. So it needs to be simple enough that people can pick it at the pack on the day and know what the strategy they want to go for and be confident in it. Because if they can't do that, then the victor is going to often be the most experienced with that mission, which I think is not therefore a balanced mission.
A miscellaneous request. I'd love to watch base game Battlevid, where you discuss your strategies aloud to the audience as you go through it. I think someone dittos this later and says quite like how chess streamers are presenting quite a few videos now where one person's streaming it and talking through their views, and they do like an amalgamation video later.
They put on top. Yeah, it's like two people streaming, right? And they just like knit together the footage.
Yeah. That's cool. My only resistance to doing this is I appreciate for those of you at home, you're like, I don't care. Give us content. But this is like the one night a week where I exclusively hang out with my mate and we chat. And if our video production was us silently playing a game with each other and not talking, I'd be like, that felt a bit shit.
This is not the best.
But like this is probably good feedback of when we do our battle reports. We should talk through our strategy a bit more aloud.
And we can what just get inside
our own heads.
We do have content like that. I don't know. This is Dr. Zachary. I think it's been around for a while, but we do have TTS content out there that you can go watch. In some of it, we've made a real effort to try and talk through a strategy, and we bounce ideas back and forth off each other. We've not always been perfect at it. But absolutely, yes. I do really like the idea of that as well as like having a thing. The other reason why we haven't gone down that route is we tend to film on one PC. To make the game easier to follow, we have one. So I will just like remote desktop into Dave's PC, and then we both control the same perspective. So as you're watching, it's not cutting back and forth between two things, and TTS isn't the best quality, so it's hard to follow. And, you know, the picture quality changes based on who's recording and so on. So actually, that's one thing we prioritize over this style of content. But next time we do TTS stuff, we will endeavor to make sure we're explaining what we're talking about, explaining what we're thinking, and think out loud to each other. It will change the game slightly, obviously, because if Dave hears my big grand strategy,
because like we try when we do our games to preserve the competitive integrity of it, and that means having a strategy that the other player doesn't necessarily know. But there's the balance of that's perhaps not such great content to watch, and that's why I say like this is really good feedback to hear, because we can do that. I think I don't know if it's one of our best, but one of my favorite video things that we ever did was last UKGE. You came over here and we did a stream where we played a bit of TTS. And we just like there was one game involving orcs, I think, and ghosts, where we spent the whole time talking through possible moves. And
ogres and something else.
And ogres and something else. And it was like, I appreciate, but that in my mind was really good strategic content. But there'll be people who are just watching it, and we're like 5 moves deep ahead of the game. And people will be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Charge and roll dice, you schmucks.
I know,
so it's a balance.
We always get a channel name thrown in our face, don't we?
Stop thinking and charge.
Just charge already.
And question number 3 is how much did Warboss Fitz pay in bribes? Oof, at least 1 glass of spicy lemonade and a back rub.
I think unfortunately he's paid none, because you know he's doing that thing like we mentioned in the video. He's trying to be cool, right? So he's got himself a posse of like wet flannels, right? So he doesn't need to pay anymore, right? Because they cling to him, right? Little limpets, right? So he's not paying anything at all. They're all losers, right? Like, don't even give him time of day, honestly. Next question.
Dirty says, Grumpy Wolf says again, almost forgot, where's the merch? Stay tuned.
Where is the merch? Yeah, where is the merch? So we do want to do merch. We think it'd be fun. We're coming up with ideas for what we want to do on our merch. We've had a couple already. So if you have any preferences, we did ask a while ago what people would like to see from us. I think we got pin badges and hoodies and stuff like that as ideas from that. But if you've got anything that you think is truly don't think, just charge, and you also want to buy the merch for it, then let us know, because at the end of the day, we're not expecting to make merch and make a bunch of money of it, but it would be fun to have some cozy jumpers that said don't think, just charge on it, and other bits and bobs from the channel.
Yeah. Dirty says, don't think, just charge. TTS tournament when? Another thing we would love to do, just need to find the time. Really?
Yep. Yeah, so the big thing for us is we obviously want to make it really good, right? And we want to get as many people involved in it as possible. And right now we just don't have the time really to give to that. And we'd also want to make our own pack. As mentioned throughout this video, it probably would be that different to base OPR with some what's called progressive games in there as well and stuff. But yeah, it's just deciding on the format. But
like,
yeah.
Ideally, we'd run 4 tournaments, like 1 base, 1 OPR pack, 1 our own pack, 1 best of the best. But like, that is so much work. Running an event is a lot. Running and coordinating. It's not just go forth and play, my monkeys. And we've got a lot of tools to do so nowadays. Like, we've got Harvey's website. But it just takes time. And then being available to support people at all the relevant points when games are going on, pairings, management of it is tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely in the future. We definitely want to do it, but yeah, just finding time for it. Also, if we were to do it, it would not be a mixed tournament. Almost certainly, we'd probably run 2 tournaments, not at the same time, but we'd run a GDF one and a fantasy one. So,
if you were to create an original official OPR faction, either grimdark or fantasy, what would it look like?
What would it look like? Oh my god. I wish I'd read this part of the question before we got here.
I can tell you what it wouldn't look like. It wouldn't look like any official OPR army. There would be something that is a step beyond the current design philosophy of OPR. I'll give you an example of one. I'm going to draw on Harvey's here. The High Elf fleets idea that we put in our beta ideas video, where there are no heroes. And all of the upgrades are baked into the units. That is one idea of an army that would be completely unique and not yet done. And that's where I think we'd go with it. I wouldn't be designing Battle Brothers V5.
No, if you want to talk design, then go look at our what would we have done with 3.5 video, right? We talked through lots of ideas there about how we would have done our factions and such. If you're talking about style, one thing that I think is really fucking rad that I don't think is represented, this is not going to surprise everyone, but I think sci-fi ghosts are something that just don't exist, right? Because Necrons are sci-fi skeletons, right? But sci-fi and they have like wraiths and stuff, but sci-fi ghosts don't really exist. So I would love to see a take on a sci-fi. Sci-fi. No, I'm talking about just in pop culture in general, right? That's why I bring out wraiths as an example. But some sort of like sci-fi ghost thing, I think would be really cool. I don't know how you make it in minis or whatever, but I really like the idea of bringing the ethereal to the sci-fi, because it basically just never really exists.
Sci-fi shadow stalkers. But without repel ambushes is their special rule.
I mean, to be fair, the question was an original OPR faction, are they going for what it looked like? So I guess it is an OPR faction, so we can just do what Tano does, which is Dragon Empires.
We've missed this. Mecha Axolotls.
No, I wouldn't want to do Mecha Axolotls. Fuck Mecha Axolotls. If I was picking for OPR to make a new faction, I would make a red wall. Is that what it's called? Red wall?
The cute little
inspired thing. Yeah, so like lots of different animals. I kind of love my anthropomorphic animals for like D&D and stuff, and I think it's kind of cool that you could bring that to wargaming in the same way. If I was making an anthropomorphic animal faction for OPR, it would 1,000% be frog people. Right? There's just no doubt in my mind it would be frog people, right? Grungs. I would 1,000% make a frog people army, right? I think they're fucking rad. I think they're cool to paint because frogs come in like every color ever. You can make them like, the OPR style is already quite cartoony. Frogs are ideal for that. Like, name a frog that's not cartoony as hell. There isn't one. And you could do all sorts of stuff with them, right? Like, I always really like it when they take when you see like an animal dressed up as like a knight or something like that. You know, like they just like give them silly knight helms and stuff like that. I think it's just like cute and fun. But yes, grungs for OPR would be fucking sweet, and I would be right on that army. And then yes, yeah, I guess sci-fi ghost is kind of my answer there. But I don't know. Really, sci-fi is an interesting one. I feel like I very rarely touch in sci-fi worlds. I think where sci-fi is strongest is in the fact that you can make aliens.
Yeah.
Right. I think like alien races are really cool. So I think you'd have to come up with something unique there. To take advantage of the fact that you can go like really monstrous with stuff. Maybe you just do sci-fi frog people as well. That's in fitting with the OPR style of doing things. We've got Dragon Empires and we've got Eternal Wardens. No, what they're called? Eternal Empire, Eternal Dynasty.
Eternal Dynasty, right?
Yeah, Eternal Dynasty. Yeah, I'm doing sci-fi frogs all the way down. What about you? Dave's like sci-fi angels, and I'm doing fantasy custodians. Shit.
Eternal Wardens. It's a really hard question. I think like my design mechanics would be something tricksy, like jumpy. There was, I don't know if this made it to beta or if this was alpha, but in alpha there was a mechanic floated about 2 units swapping positions.
Yeah,
I think that would be really cool to have. I think 2 unit swapping positions would be probably like one of the army wides I'd like to play with, because that's something that requires some synergy. Something synergistic would be my design approach, I think. Like, you'd be bringing in proximity-based rules like we discussed, or the bouncing around thing. As for the fluff and the flavor and the theme, I wish I'd looked at this question in advance as well. I'm obsessed with casters, right? I just love psychers. Maybe something where you could actually find a range of ways of supporting casters. And what that would probably boil down to is being hero hammer. But where you've got good access to spell conduit, spell accumulator, maybe even if it was just a whole load of... See, the problem with spell conduit and spell accumulator... the problem with spell accumulator specifically is if you put it as an upgrade in a unit, you can double up the unit and abuse it. You can have it where you can put caster 1s in units, spell accumulators in another, double up your spell accumulator unit, and your caster 1s are caster 3s throughout the game. So something like that would be fun, but doing it in the right way is difficult, and that's the sort of thing I'd want to play around with. 3.6 current drafting has got weapon upgrades that improve caster, so that would be something to kind of tinker around with a bit more. Maybe something like that isn't necessarily change demons and is probably better expressed than Knight Battle Brothers. That's probably where I'd end up.
Okay, so if you're picking one faction to make, then what are you picking stylistically? Or what do they look like? Because I'm picking frog people, whether sci-fi or fantasy. I'm picking frog people.
Aesthetic?
Yeah.
I'm going all robes.
All robes. I really like
robes.
Yeah, this is actually something. So in RuneScape, there's a place called Arceus, I think, or something like that, and all the people there are basically just floating robe spirits, right? Which is actually really fucking rad. And that kind of plays into my sci-fi ghost thing, right? Maybe that's how we do the sci-fi ghost thing. We do like cool robed people, but make them like sci-fi robes. Like, how high elves look like sci-fi robes. They're not like normal robes. Yeah, that kind of shit. All I know is that for my frog faction, their buddy would be a silky anteater. If you don't know what a silky anteater is, go Google it. It's just literally the best animal in existence ever. I love anteaters anyway, because I think anything named after the thing it eats is just so great. Right? I wish I was named after the thing I eat. It would make picking dinner a lot easier.
That would really ruin my vibe. I'd just be chocolate and chips. Like,
they would just be like, yeah. Frog people, and one of them has like a silky anteater on his arm, like it's like a pet bird, but obviously it's a silky
anteater. If I'm going for ghostly robe people, I'm more meant robes, just robes on humanoids, right? But yeah, floating robes is sick as well. The buddies for me would be monkey butlers, quad-armed monkey butlers, because you know what, they got a robe and disrobe, and so you're gonna have a butler to do it. And if it's a buddy, it's a monkey buddy, and if it's a space monkey buddy, well, he's gonna have 4 arms like Machamp.
That's fair. Yeah, we're making Pokemon. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm making a Gengar faction.
How do you recruit players to your local settings, and any recommendations? Recruiting new people
Yeah,
oh my God.
I'm going to pass over to Dave entirely, right? Like Dave has run tournaments, and Dave has obviously been recruiting some of his friends to the game. I have not really done much of that, to be honest. This YouTube channel is the closest I get to recruiting people to OPR, because when I say I have a YouTube channel, they go, "What's it about?" And I go, "OPR," and I show it to them. That's it. That's my recruitment drive.
This is Dave's third drawing on real world experience. We've spoken about business, we've touched on psychology, and I'm now going to talk to you about something else I spent far too much time in my life in, and that's sales. Woo! Business psychology and sales with Dave. First of all, and this is a big call out to people trying to recruit Warhammer players, Kings of War players. Don't sell someone something they don't want.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Because we have a friend called James, who I've mentioned him already, and he's played OPR, and he prefers 40k. And you get into headbutts with him when I try and tell him to come back to OPR, because he doesn't want it. And that's fine.
He doesn't, yeah.
I know you want your mates to play your game with you. If they're happy with their game, let them be happy with their game.
To it, yeah.
If there are strangers playing 40k, don't come stomping in telling them OPR is better. Let them find out that for themselves, but you won't draw them over if they aren't interested in it. That's one of the biggest things about sales in general. That whole, what's it called? Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen, right? Do you know what the actual Jordan, what's his name, Beaufort? Jordan Belfort? Do you know what his actual approach to sell me this pen is? Do you know?
No.
Are you looking to buy a pen? No.
Yeah.
Then I'm not spending my time on you, because you're not interested in spending your money with me.
I need to make money, yeah.
And so firstly, I'm really sorry, but it's don't recruit people who aren't interested in it.
Yeah.
As for how to do it and how to be inviting, it's that. Be warm, be open, don't be pushy. A lot of people get put off by Warhammer. We're talking about Warhammer so much, but a lot of people get put off by the Warhammer Games Workshop, let me sell you something approach.
Yeah.
And it works for them because they can be aggressive. And if someone's in the door, then fine. But people aren't in the door of an OPR shop at this point. So be like, if someone's curious, be like, hey, you interested, or what interests you about what you're looking at? If you've set up a display table or something, can I interest you in showing you how this works? No, thanks. Cool. That's fine. And a lot of it is in sales. Just be interesting. Be interested when people are interested. Don't jump down their throats. Just put yourself out there as well.
Yeah.
Set up a table at an LGS, things like that.
Yeah, basically, right. In general, people, 1 in 10 people who are interested in something will approach one about it.
Yeah.
Right. So actually the battle you're going to have is getting people to walk over to you. Right. When me and Dave play at events like that, like we played at UKG a couple of years, last year actually, and someone came over and was watching the game, and you have literally 15 seconds of their time looking over the game. And if you don't turn around to them in that moment and go like, hey, we're playing OPR, you got any questions or whatever, they're gone, right? They're lost completely because they don't want to bother you. They don't want to get in the way. So yeah, if you want to be inviting, so if you want people to join the game, then the onus is on you to like be open to people talking to you and approaching them if they're looking like they're showing interest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Dirty. That is a really complex question, and like there's no easy answer to that one, I'm afraid. No. Umbricage has added on to that one, saying, "Are there any armies or other things you'd recommend for introducing new players? Lower the barrier to entry. Have your dice. You take measure. Your board. Make it look pretty. Don't have unpainted minis if you're doing things like that. And then OPR's released a demo mode. Use that. Simplicity is key.
That's out, is it? Yeah.
Demo mode is out. Yeah. And if you're not going to use demo mode, don't pick complex. Exploding sixes based armies are good.
Yeah.
Movement based armies are good. In fact, actually, no, movement based armies are bad because you want people to learn the 6 and the 12. So no, I have
slow, a simple answer to this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We did a video on it. We did a video on lists for different levels of ability. If you go watch that video, you can go see what we think is a beginner level list, intermediate level list, and advanced. And because OPR is very kind of samey in a way, you can take the principles in that video and you can apply it to any army.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Good. Iron Biscuit, new to the server. Thank you for joining. What's your favorite kind of takeout and what's your go-to dish? All of them is my answer.
Yeah,
what's my name in your phone?
What's my favorite? Oh, Dave's in my phone is Dave Fatty Fatty Bum Bum, which has been there since we were 11 or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So favorite takeout. I mean, I've really been enjoying German doner kebab recently. Like really, right? Like the spicy sauce with all the veg and stuff is just pretty damn great. And lots of chicken and stuff like that. Yeah, huge fan of that. I would say historically, my favorite takeout has been an Indian. Love an Indian, right? Love a little bit of spicy food. Love feeling full after you've finished eating, which rice and meat obviously does. And then stuff like mango chutney and stuff is just like to die for.
Oh yeah.
In my actual life, my go-to dish, if we're talking no longer takeout stuff, right? What do I make the most for myself? Is sad food, because I have high protein intake required to gain muscle, and so that means I eat lots and lots of meat with lots and lots of vegetables and rice. Yes, so not that exciting. But if I'm making something special for myself, I make these like spicy honey beef wraps, which is actually my girlfriend's favorite thing that I cook, and I cooked it for her the first time I ever cooked, and I've really not needed a recipe after that. It's basically like any time I'm like, oh, do you want me to cook something nice tonight? She's like, make the wraps again. So that's my kind of go-to dish if I'm cooking for people.
I think I can't avoid being a sucker for a Chinese, right? I love Domino's, love fish and chips.
Yeah, who doesn't love a Domino's?
We love a Domino's.
Yeah, fish and chips is good.
All of growing up, you'd go to Harvey's house and his dad would come around the corner and be like, well, first of all, he'd say to me, there's my third son. Harvey has got 2 other brothers. So Harvey's dad has a third son, but I was apparently number 3. And then he'd buy you a Domino's.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was the path.
That's good shit.
But I love a Chinese spicy chili beef, egg fried rice, seaweed, hoisin sauce.
Just never landed with me. Just some about Chinese never really landed with me. I'll sit and I'll eat it, but I don't know. There's just I don't think there's anything at a Chinese that I in my head go like, oh, I really want that. You know, because what I quite like, it's quite like getting a big thing in front of me and like eating it all. You know, whereas I feel like Chinese is a bit more picky food, isn't it? Right? You can have a bit of that, a bit of this, right? So
yeah, okay, yeah.
You know, like you like order with like 6 different people, and can I have some of your sweet and sour chicken? And
that's what happens a lot with Indians. But you're right, it does happen with Chinese. It's too.
Yeah,
it does. Warboss Fitz says he goes for a Chinese. Big up. Iron Biscuit says
no. He said I'm going for a Chinese. Is actually what he said.
He's going for a Chinese.
Yeah,
hell
so,
yeah.
Warboss Fitz says everyone a Chinese.
Nice one, thank you. Why a Spaceman Coco? Why are British? This is a good question. Why are British people so scared of point values over 2,000 points? Is it just a Dave and Harvey thing? Is it all of Europe? Can't speak for all of them. I'd be interested in a deep dive into this deep-seated fear of 3,000 point Grimdark Future games that has our boys by the balls and won't seem to let go. Warboss did pay me to ask that one.
Yeah. Okay. So. Why are we scared of points over 2,000? I don't own that many minis, right? Like, I'd have to print minis for it. Yeah, no, I think the real thing about 2,000 points. Sorry, yeah, you would have to, yeah, and your wife would have to paint them. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for me. I think that the thing for us, I think, is once again, it's accessibility to it, right? Like 2,000 points is already a lot of stuff to have. Getting people involved. If you have 3,000 points, it becomes a lot more. Transporting the minis is a whole thing. I think that we enjoy the game at 2,000 points, and adding more points, I don't think is going to add enough to the game to make it worth bringing 3,000 points every time I go to an event. There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing 3,000 points. It allows for lots of other different things. But one of the things I really, really love about list building is the limitations of it.
Yeah.
And I think the more points you add to it, the more flexibility you get. And if you're the kind of person who really loves like bringing their big stompy dudes, then you're going to love that extra flexibility, right? But that's not me. What I love doing is I love finding ways of doing things under limitations. And I think
people should always be mindful of the quote, limitation breeds creativity.
Yeah.
And that creativity in OPR is expressed both through list building and creativity on the board. And I'm not saying play 500 points down and you'll be more creative. Yeah. I'm saying that from the few games of 3,000 points I've played, from the far longer time I've spent building 3,000 point lists, I don't feel limited. I can have everything I want, and that feels like less of a challenge. You have Death Stars, but my Death Stars aren't nearly as cumbersome or risky to play with. I feel like that is another point as well, that the risk at 3,000 points when you lose a unit is so much more heavily mitigated, because I have got 12, 13 units, and those units are punching a little bit higher. So the trading is less of a challenge for me. It's less of a challenge to make sure that I'm constantly contesting a 5 objectives game. And then just pragmatically, I can't play as many games in a day. But it's those sorts of reasons. There is nothing wrong with 3,000 points. And people enjoy it. And I think that one of the things people enjoy is bringing more things, bringing more of their toys. Sick. Yeah. Rock on and have a great time. Most of our OPR gameplay is at events. And so naturally, we will play less 3,000 points.
Yeah, I also think that it's not quite as relevant with the tough change. I mean, maybe it's even more relevant with the tough change. But the more points you have, the more opportunity there is for like skew to go even skewier. Right? When you have like 3,000 points, people can start bringing Titans and stuff, and they'll bring like a Titan and 3 tough 12s or whatever, right? And I don't know how feasible that is. But you can then start, you have people who've got like, 8 activations and one of them is a Titan. And then you'll have people who just go the other way and go like, well, I can take 15 activations. I'm going to take 15 activations, right? And I'm going to bring all zombies. And if half your stuff can't deal with that, then you're literally never making it through 15 units. And if it's like 3 objectives or whatever, then yeah, like that sounds not that conducive to very exciting play. As for whether it's all of Europe or not, I don't know. I think the French and I think the Germans play with 2,000 points.
Well, there was that French, as of today's Thursday, someone called Alric came into the main server and posted a crap ton of amazing statistics about a recent 20-player French event where they played at 2,500 points.
Oh,
which
was that
GDF? 2,500 Grimdark Future.
Grimdark Future.
I think it was just Grimdark Future.
Yeah.
The top lists were Alien Hives and Robot Legions. There was Saurian Star Host in there. I think it was pure Grimdark Future.
Yeah.
But that's interesting too.
That is interesting, yeah. I think like anything, right, like if 2,000 is the default that OPR is selling, and OPR is a small game, you're going to be able to find more games. You play at 2,000, people are wanting to have that amount of models. If you're looking for a new experience, then yeah, do whatever the fuck you want with the point values, right? Like it will make for a more exciting game.
Yeah. And 3,000 points isn't too cumbersome, right?
No, nowhere near, right? We make it sound like it's a lot, right? But it will slow your game day down, right? I think you'd probably struggle to get 5 games of 3,000 points in, whereas you can just about fit 5 games of 2,000 points into a day, which therefore lets you have bigger tournaments and so on.
Yeah. Sven already did answer that question. Thank you, Sven, which is you get more games at 2,000 points. Big up, Sven. Mikos asks, think Just Charge online tournament when? We've already answered that one. Thank you, Mikos. Grumpy Wolf says he's guessing a Korean. Bronson asks one of the best questions. Oh, by the way, Korean food is delicious. Bronson asks one of the best questions a British person wants to hear. What is your favourite Monty Python sketch?
I mean, so we'll start off by saying that me and Dave were big fans of the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Right?
Comedy.
Like, I think
we're big fans of comedy, right?
That's probably our go-to Monty Python, right? I would say we watched that a lot as kids, right? We watched a lot of Bill Bailey and we watched a lot of the Holy Grail, right? Of that, I would say all the things that got us the most in that we repeated more than anything else. I think it's actually the Knights Who Say Knee. I think by far we repeated the Knights Who Said Knee so much. And
Said Knee.
And I'll come back here, I'll bite your shins off. Right, that was
it's
Black
just
Knight.
A flesh wound.
Yeah.
And what is your name? What is your quest? What is the maximum carrying capacity of a swallow?
Yeah.
As for other Monty
Is it laden or unladen? Burn or something like that, yeah.
African or European?
Yeah.
What is your favourite colour?
Oh, I don't know.
Green. No, red.
So
What
we were a
else?
big fan of that. I would say
he's not the Messiah. He's a
very naughty.
We're not the Judean People's Front. Oh, we're not the People's Front of Judea. We're the Judean People's Front.
I really like What Did the Romans Do for Us.
What did the Romans do for us?
Yeah. Well, apart from the aqueducts and the roads and the tax system.
It's another Life of Brian, not Life of Brian. Holy Grail one is where he finds the monastery.
Yeah. With all the sexy ladies,
all the sexy nuns.
Yeah.
We're just talking about amazing Monty Python humor now.
And the oral
Funny
sex
Walks is a classic.
Yeah, Mystery of Funny Walks is great. I think but if you're picking one sketch from all of Monty Python,
one sketch. Fucking hell.
Yeah, that is tough.
Oh man, hold on.
Maybe it has to be from one of the movies. I don't know.
I think it has to be from one of the movies. It has to be from one of the films. So let's. You've got Life of Brian.
I mean,
Holy Grail,
one sketch that is kind of surreal and funny is the dead bird one. Seen that? I'm gonna find it now. See if I can remind you of it. Monty Python. Monty Python, dead bird, dead parrot. Maybe we should link this somewhere.
No, actually, it is from Holy Grail. It's I'm being repressed. What's the word? Watery tartan ponds.
Yeah.
Let me find the full quote. Strange women lying in ponds. Where is it?
There's no basis for.
Here we go. Strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. Supreme executive power derives from the mandate of the masses, not from some farcical aquatic ceremony. Yeah, that one. I'm going to go for that one. Yeah, it is Holy Grail. We spent so much of our childhood watching that film.
Yeah, we did.
And Part Troll by Bill Bailey, which is just stand-up comedy at its peak.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with the dead parrot sketch. That's great. Like you go watch it, but basically the idea is he comes in and he's like, "This, I bought this bird here half an hour and there's a problem with it." And he's like, "Oh, what's the problem?" And he goes, "Well, it's dead." And he goes, he's like, "No, it's not." He's like, "Yes, it is." Yeah, that's a great sketch. Go watch that if you haven't. All the Americans are now going to go watch it and be like, "What the fuck is wrong with these fellas?"
Life of Brian and Holy Grail are mandatory watching. I think those are just fantastic. And
the scene in Life of Brian as well when they're throwing the stones.
Who did that? Are there any women here? No women here. And the iconic finishing, always look on the bright side of life. We could just sit here. Why have you done this? Now we're just going to sit here quoting Monty Python. I bet you, right? Bronson went, how do I trip up the Brits? I'm going to mention Monty Python. That'll get them there.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
We will move on. Yep. Oh God, we're 2.5 hours in, and 2 hours was talking about Monty Python. Foysource follows up on the counterattack point. Oh no, Foysource, thank you for your comment. Foysource wants more commentary in battle reports, which is absolutely fine. The point is taken. Noodles, Priest of Sotek adds in the chesting. I think that's that's the chesting. Thank you, Noodles. We are actually making our way to the bottom of this list. You guys, by the way, two things. First of all, thank you so much for all of the questions. This is great. We didn't think this would be as in-depth. And second of all, thank you for getting this far into the video. If you're here, bloody hell, you've got some tenacity on you. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
The painting's going well.
I hope you're having a lovely
your car drive,
Yeah, exactly. This is like pretty much this is just the nonsense that Harvey and I talk about on the daily.
If you've made it this far in the video, comment Dave and Harvey would win in a bar fight.
That or comment your favorite Monty Python sketch or line, and if it's he's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy, then fantastic. Allies. This is another question. How do you feel about allies being allowed in tournaments? If you think it should be allowed, what's your preferred way of handling them?
The one thing that makes armies unique in OPR is their limitations, right? Their lack of access to things. That's the only really distinguishing factor between armies. It's why I said before, like, you often end up talking about a couple of units when you talk about an army, because having access to this one thing makes them unique. When you add allies into the mix, you take all that away. And you allow for some stuff that the game doesn't necessarily account for. I mean, it's pretty fine. But it basically means, okay, now every single person in the world gets access to, right?
Flying transports.
Yeah, exactly, right? So whilst that can breed some interesting lists and you can find opportunities to break stuff, I think the potential for things to be even more broken is even higher. And also it encourages... I think oftentimes it is a mismatch of expectations from some people. Some people, when they think about allies, think about like thematic allies. Why can't I bring my demons of chaos with my warriors of chaos or whatever? And I think that's fair. But other people see allies and go like, ooh, I could bring a Dow spotter squad. And I could just whack that in my army and that deals with all my problems I was having before. Or, ooh, I'll just bring Alien House Swarms because they're so hard to move. And then that becomes slightly less appealing, I think. I think you can allow them in tournaments. I don't think that they should be allowed in tournaments. It's the limitations breed creativity thing again, right? I think it's much more interesting when you come across with someone, they go, I'm playing Robot Legions, and you have an idea what that looks like. Instead of going, I've got playing Robot Legions, and I've cherry picked this one broken unit from something else. So yeah, I'm opposed to it.
I've taken Human Inquisition and I've got a precision buff or a piercing buff, so I can overcome this limitation, right?
Yeah. You just pick the base. I've taken a Hive Lord in my Dwarf Guilds army because I didn't think that walk was very good.
Yeah. How do you make it work is the next one. I agree with everything Harvey said there.
I also think, for what it's worth,
a huge amount.
This is a mini agnostic game, right? You don't need allies to be able to ally the minis you think are cool, right? So if you want to use demons in your non-demon list because you think it makes sense, just use the minis, right?
Yeah.
You don't need the stats to come along with it. I mean, some people do, but yeah, for the most part, you can just use the minis and you'd be happy with it. So yeah, go on.
What's your preferred way of handling them, and how would you allow them? Is the next question.
I think the 30% thing is fine.
The 30% thing is fine. I don't love it. I think allow specific factions to ally with specific factions, and apply reasonable thought. If you're doing narrative, it's on your players to self-police. Right? If you're doing it for an event, it's on people to do things because of rule of cool, not for people to do things to get a strategic advantage. Yeah. And there's a way to manage that. So, for example, don't allow transport crossing. That's a big one. If you're going to bring a transport, it has to transport units from your list. There's an already baked-in rule that heroes can only lead units from within their own army book, which I think is good.
Is that true?
It's in the tournament.
Yeah, it's not actually
guidelines. It's not in the core rules.
And hence not an Army Forge, I think, right?
Yes,
I think Army Forge allows you to do it. Yeah, but I agree with that as a principle. Yeah,
that's one. I think that the tournament organizer, the burden is on the tournament organizer to make it happen for a reason. And then there's going to be things where it's just it. The problem with doing it is that it will take a real passion project to make it not abusable. And if people have done it, then great. Like we had a recent event where it was limited allying. It was things like orcs and goblins. The Havoc factions could ally with their respective gods' demons, but only war with war demons, lust with lust demons, and so on. Aspects like that are fine because it is carefully decided. And where one faction might be able to already do a certain thing, the other faction could already do it, so you're not covering weaknesses unnecessarily. that's where you have it in a way that's fine. But at the moment, the lists are diverse from one another. The lists do have, either by design or by not, inbuilt deficiencies to them, and allowing you just to willy-nilly ally anything in is just going to mitigate the risks. Titan Lords, right? Like those tough 9 Titans are great. The tough 12 Titans are pretty great too. And then the limitation is then activations. But if I can just take 3 tough 9 Titans and sprinkle in a load of zombies, I've mitigated my risk.
Yeah, I think also, like I said before, like there's that element of like what you're expecting when you're doing that, right? Like, so we played in a tournament recently where the TO had allowed some allies, but also made a couple of changes to army rules, right? So they allowed Dark Elves to use harassing to get back in transports, which is very thematic, cool, right? I didn't use it. I played Dark Elves that day. I didn't use it once because I was winning my games without it, right?
Yeah.
And what it would have actually been is a complete stomp if I'd also used that, right? And so if you're playing in an event where people are going to pick allies because they're fun, then yeah. I think one thing that we, one good way of doing allies is actually the way that the UK TTS tournament does it, where you get randomized 2 factions and you have to pick one of them to play, and you can ally in the other one if you want to, right? That's a fun way of doing it because there's no way of gaming the system, right? You've been randomized 2 things, and maybe you got lucky, maybe you didn't, but you've been locked in, right? You can't actively go and find those kind of toxic ally combinations. Also, a while ago, I made this thing on TTS where I made
your bags.
Yeah, and bags. Yeah, so I made 1,000-point lists and put them in bags in TTS. And so you could just draw 2 of them and from that make a 2,000-point list. That's another way you can allow it, right? If you make allies 50-50 instead, it makes it kind of harder to like drop in for certain things, right? If you go like, okay, well, you have 2 1,000-point lists, you have to fill these up with each army. It makes it much harder to cherry pick, right? Because you can't just go like, I just want 1 transport. You have to go, oh, I want 1 transport, but I'm actually also having to bring, you know, part of what makes a human defense force list to get that transport in there. So I'm going to have to bring in some normal guys, and then you're closer to playing just human defense force so that the overlap might not be as scary. So that's another way you can do it. But overall, I mean, we're not really huge fans of allies, so we haven't put a huge amount of thought in how to make it work, because really the solution is don't.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Toad Brews. Justin the Friendly, welcome to the server. How do you effectively plan a transport drop-off of units from an aircraft? Seeing as the move force is a minimum of 30 inches, you can't guarantee deployment next to the desired unit. Any tips would be great. Does this make melee charge units unreliable when using aircraft due to the 6-inch limit when deployed? I want to give you maths hammer at the moment. Your aircraft has got a 6-inch deployment zone from it and has a fixed range of 30 to 36 inches. Bearing in mind the 6 inches either side, that puts your bracket at between 24 and 42-inch drop-off, and that is an 18-inch range. So that is already huge versatility in a straight line, not including your bubble either side, and the fact that you can take this huge column of space and pivot it. So how do you plan? First of all, aircraft is something that you should be prepared to deploy back off of your line, because the board is only 48 inches from side to side.
That's huge.
And you should remember that your diagonals are your friends.
Your
aircraft is a bishop from chess.
Yeah, it's basically what Dave said there, right? Like, there's a pivoting zone of space where you can drop your units. If you imagine putting it in the middle of the board, then it's quite hard to get the angle. But the more and more shallow that angle is, the more space it covers, like side to side, which is where the game is being played in that middle section between the 2 deployment zones. So deploying more to the left and more to the right of your aircraft, it's good. Another way to do it is just be more flexible with who you're going to drop on, right? You can drop on anyone. Sometimes it's about taking a flank and not necessarily about applying the unit in the place it needs to be applied. So that's another way of doing it as well. Yes.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, Erin. We love you.
There's no question there. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Does this make melee charge units unreliable when using aircraft due to the 6-inch limit when deployed? I would say no, mostly because the strategy you tend to do with aircraft is you tend to do all your other activations first, right? So you do all your activations, and then you fly in from across the board and you do your stuff. And that way you can allow your opponent to activate their stuff, and then their stuff is locked in place. So then it no longer becomes, I move my aircraft over, they run the fuck away. It becomes, I move my aircraft over, they've already activated, I take my sweet time, and then I shoot, then I charge them from the thing. So less of a liability than you think it would be basically in practice.
Yeah. Thank you. Aaron, love you. Asked a question that I didn't understand, and thankfully I don't think I have to answer. And I'll answer the second question that they've asked, which is on a more serious note. Do I have Fitz's bollocks, Aaron? God damn it. Do I have Fitz's number? Always wanted to talk to a star of the OPR community. God damn it, you got me out. Well done. Proper question. Which factions do you think could be best developed more in OPR without taking away from the game being used by many as just a 40k proxy game? And how do they kiss? Which factions could be best
develop more in OPR without taking away from the game being used by many? Oh, I see. Oh, so if you took a faction and made it something more of its own without ruining the 40k origins. That's a really interesting question. I mean, I think because of the way OPR is laid out, basically any faction, I think, you know, they've got a project going on at the moment about generification of names, which is a great way of ensuring that you basically always be able to proxy stuff over, right? Because, you know, it doesn't matter if you call them like Shadow Warriors of Alaneth, if you just call them warriors, right? Yeah. Then all the laws stripped from them, people can just like assign stuff. But I think similar to jackals, right? Jackals were, what are they called? Crute. There's plenty of opportunities to develop jackals without feeling like the Crute guys miss out.
They already have done. I think it is a bit of a trap, and it's just add one more unit, right? Give it one more thing that isn't in the 40k range, that you found an STL that matches it, or you're encouraging people to bring something else. That isn't a good bandage, because more is more power.
I guess the answer to my question is, I think any faction they haven't made a mini range for is a faction that you could develop more. Right, because when you make minis, you give people the opportunity to have a mini that represents the thing you're talking about. I think also wargaming is, because it's mini agnostic, right? Wargaming stat wise, there aren't that many archetypes, right? There's like Dumpy Walker, and there is armored vehicle, and there is man, and there is man with bigger gun, and there is monster. So you can do all sorts of stuff, and then people will still be able to proxy their stuff over. Like, I don't know, like a mutated what they call mutated dreadnought, right? From 40k is like a dreadnought with a mutant arm, my understanding, big chaos claw. That could be proxied for basically any walker in the whole entire game. Yeah. And you can call that walker whatever you want from any faction, and people could use their cool mini. So I think any of them, if I was picking one for them to develop more, if we're talking, so I guess we're talking 40k proxies, we're talking GDF. The thing I would really like to see them develop more in a way, I think, would be DAO. I feel like DAO play a unique role within the OPR ecosystem as a really heavy shooting army. And I think DAO are cool as that, but I think there are so many ways of making that cool. That I think we don't need to lock ourselves into playing exactly the same as 40k wise, which is just like mech suits with guns. I think it'd be cool to see some exploration around that, around some other stuff, because I guess the original also had Crute in it, right? So you already had that kind of exploration thing going on.
And the 40k army still does. And a lot of people are going to say, by the way, if you want to do this properly, just ally things in, which is fair enough. If you're coming to this with that as your objective, then there are solutions here that aren't necessarily within our school of thought, and that's absolutely fine. I think for me it would be, I just want to say Elven Jesters, because they are very one-dimensional, and they're a great one-dimensional army. I love it. But just something different, and I can't tell you what that is right now. That would be something where I'd like to see just one step further, so people could be like, oh, I'm going to bring my Harlequins, and be like, wait, hold on, I have the opportunity to do this completely different thing that they can't do in 40k. Cool. And that's an army where adding one extra unit card isn't going to warp the balance.
I think actually good models for this stuff, not models in minis, but good models in a framework, is when you look at factions that have different like factions within them kind of thing. So like Dark Elves have like the warriors, they have the
and
witches,
yeah.
and then they also have like the mutant guys or whatever they're called, gene brutes and stuff like that. That's a really good framework for expanding armies that doesn't upset the 40k lot, I guess, right? So if you took Elven Jesters, and so you've got Elven Jesters as they are, and then you added in a bird people section of it, right? Called fucking Taloners, something like that, right? Name pending. You might not offend the 40k guys because they can still see their elf core thing, right? But then you have these badass bird things that also come along for the ride. So I think that's a good way of like expanding on factions without, taking away from the original stuff.
Buddies. OPR's already developing buddies, giving them more of a battlefield role than just being markers would be one idea. Not really in OPR's current ethos, but there's one idea for it.
Yeah.
There are ways. It's a careful balance to strike of not just adding more, because adding more isn't necessarily interesting.
No.
But there is room to do it in a few factions, and there are factions that would benefit from it in a positive way that doesn't detract from the overall rest of the game.
Oh, another thing you can do as well is
different classes.
We obviously have sub-factions in the game, right? So you could add more kind of OPR style sub-factions. So you could have DAO, right? So you just have the base DAO as they are now, and you could brand them as like, I don't know what an appropriate word for it would be that would also link it back to 40k, some fish things that they have got. They got the fish or whatever. Fuck, I don't know whatever it's called. Yeah, you could call it like DAO of the waves or whatever shit you want, right? And that's the 40k version of DAO. And then you have another sub-faction.
I like where
you have another sub-faction, right, where maybe you bring in a lot more close range weaponry, right? And you call them like night daggers, right? Or whatever, right? And then that's a very similar army, but the variant on it is the new OPR way of playing it. So you still have ways of exploring for
I think you've made. That's a really good one. I like that.
Like just like fun little variants like that.
I take that one.
Rewind back to that one.
Brilliant. Aaron, thank you very much for your question and for confusing me on the way in. Amos, what are the strengths and weaknesses of using doubled up combined units? When to take them, how to use them, when not to take them? Outside of needing more activations in the list, is there a time when two smaller, identical units are better than one big one?
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm finding I'm doing a lot of 2,000 point Age of Fantasy building. Harvey developed this approach for us, which I have taken on board, which is if it's good, take two. Yep. I'm actually at this point in my list building philosophy at the moment of if it's good, take two doubled up units and one not doubled up unit.
Mm-hmm.
Because typically it's with scouts, because I want to use my scouts offensively, but I want to have a spare burner scout. But it is guessing the good thing, guessing it a good amount, and then guessing us a little bit to have a reserve or a throwaway or a blocker or a distraction. And so having it a bit is good, and having it not a bit is good. Did that make sense? I think that made sense.
Yeah. I think so the thing for combined units for me is if you consider the role of the unit you're combining, then you'll kind of get closer to your answer about whether or not you should combine them up.
Yeah.
So chaff, right? What's the purpose of chaff? Cheap bodies, right? Cheap bodies, hard to move, probably bad morale. If we double them up, it takes a lot longer to get to morale. Okay, so that sounds good. Perfect, right? We double that up because it plays into their strengths. If you take a unit of elven archers, right, and you double them up, right? Okay, what's their role? If their role is to delete a unit, then maybe that's good, right? Maybe we now have 20 shots because we're taking A2 wood elf ones, right? Okay, good. If the role is not for them to delete units, right? Let's say a doubled up unit wouldn't be enough firepower to kill something that you traditionally faced against, then what you're doing is you're doubling up on your risk, because if that unit gets charged, it can now take more than 5 wounds. So it might be better to go like, okay, well, actually, the role I want this unit to play is I want it to chip away at stuff. I'm not interested in outright killing stuff, but what I do want to do is take 2 or 3 models off most of the units in their army before they reach me. And then that's their role. So actually having a doubled up block makes way less sense then, because you're going to over or under threaten one unit, right? And then you don't have enough for another unit where you might need it. So consider the role that the single one's playing and then go from there. The other use case for combined units is when you have unit upgrades that give auras. And when you double them up, you can take both of them, right? There's a really nice
HDF, custodians, some Basset brothers. Dow.
is a huge one, right? So yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good use case for doubling things up because you're kind of doubling down on that power. Same when you're embedding heroes and things. Most of the time you want to double up the thing you're putting heroes in.
You're paying flat cost for an aura.
Yeah. So auras scale really well with number of models. You put outside of needing more activations in a list is a time where 2 small identical units are better than 1 bigger one. I would say I would run off the assumption that you're going to be running single units and build your list, right? And unless there's like specific ones like Dow spotter squads, where, like I said before, you're looking for like a volume of fire, you're looking to delete things. I would build your list with all single units and then go from there. My personal preference for building up units is I don't really like units that cost 400 points-ish, right? There's like a certain 350 points-ish, right? Is when I start to think like this might be too expensive to double up. I need to really justify that cost. We often talk about like the 200.
Expensive to double up at 300 points or 300 points. So a 175 point unit, is that too much to double up?
No, you can double that up. I mean like around the 300 point mark. Stop trying to double things up. Yeah. So like when you see like Tri-Scorpions, right?
Yeah.
That's a really expensive unit already.
That's 225 points.
Yeah, if you double that up, then it's becoming a significant part of your army, a huge part of your strategy. And are you just overcommitting resources to a single location?
Yeah.
So yeah, the other situations where smaller units are better than bigger ones is when you, so for example, in Ghost and Dead, Mourner Banshees are a unit that, or you just use them for literally just moving up the flank and taking objectives. That's their sole purpose, right? They are an activation, and that's all you want them for. And actually, if you double them up, like I mentioned before, they can then take more than 5 wounds. Whereas when they're singled up, your opponent can throw their 500 point unit into your 70 point unit and it will definitely die, but it would have definitely died if you had doubled it up as well. So it's nice to have these.
Increasing the value of your opponent's attack by doing that with some units, with a specific battlefield role that isn't offensive or defensive.
And you're also removing your ability. If you've got 2 units, you can throw one of them into an enemy to fatigue them and know that it'll die or whatever, and that's fine. And the other half of the unit could then make the follow-up charge, or it could just live and do the same thing next turn or whatever. So yeah.
There is a principle in engineering about building in breakpoints to your structures. For example, in a bridge, there are designed points that will break first when the bridge is under stress.
Yeah.
And that is done so that you don't lose the important bit that you don't want to break. So by increasing the number of activations in your army, yes, you're increasing the number of activations, which is powerful in an alternating activations game. You are also allowing yourself breakpoints, throwaways that aren't tied into that activation aspect. This does go down to why loads of activations are strong, but if you're taking swarms, having 2 units of 3 is going to be better than 1 unit of 6 most of the time, because you can throw away your 1. You can force your opponent to draw an entire activation into wiping 1 out and still have the second one. And that's what Harvey was talking about with the whole 5 wounds thing, 5 wounds to kill it versus it always dying. It's a strategically implemented break, snap, throw away that you've got in your army.
Yeah. Also just from like a ranged units can split fire. So if you double up a ranged unit and then you give half it one weapon, half it the other weapon, then it can split fire. And it's a very point cost heavy activation, which can be a nice strategy. Melee units can never do that. So if you do a 400 point melee unit that's doubled up, basic 5 stack or whatever, then you may very well be limiting the amount it can actually affect on the board. Because maybe it was strong enough to do charges as the unstacked version and still do well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Amos. Stephen in Central US time asks about mixed factions and are they viable? Mixed faction armies are viable. We've mentioned that already.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned why we don't really talk about them. I'm sure we could do a mixed army video at some point. Problem is we don't really know what the landscape is of how far people allow it to go. But certainly happy to discuss that with you, Stephen, on the channel Discord.
Viable 1,000%. Yeah, you're basically just giving yourself more options. So as long as what we're shooting by a mixed faction is 30% of another faction in your list, then yeah, absolutely. It's basically pick your favorite bits at that point.
Are there any other considerations you take when building a campaign list compared to a standard 1 to 2k list? Asks Dakasaur Dan. If you're doing a slow grow, or like the campaign structure from OPR where you get more points to spend, pick your cheaper stuff earlier, be able to play the game. Then when building the list itself, when you're buying your upgrades, have a purpose for it. When you're buying your next unit, are you taking it to just spend your points? That's not usually the best approach. Sometimes it's necessary. Or are you banking? Are you planning to get your next 3 deadly 3 attacks because that's a gap you're missing in your list? One of the good things about playing games at 1k or 750 of your fantasy campaigns, in my mind, is the restriction. Like we've talked about how limitation breeds creativity and why we like 2k, and that lower amount is exciting because it is challenging. Try and be mindful of the weaknesses of your list at lower points, because if you have the opportunity to grow it, then think about where you are moving into. Plan that next step ahead. Plan your first purchase, and be aware of your weaknesses, and that will also improve your game in general.
Yeah, I think from another thing I'd say is if by campaign list here we mean a list that starts as a list and then you add things onto it like bolt on. I would say your smallest list should be the most rounded version of your list. So try and build something that you can take in many directions, right? Because your opponent might bring something in the first round, like they might bring all zombies. And then you go like, okay, well, I need a way of dealing with zombies. And if I built a rounded list, then I might have some of that. And it means that when you get your next 500 points, you can go like, okay, I should bring some flamethrowers because that's going to help me with the zombie section of his list, right? But then the rest of your list, if they then bring in, okay, and then on top of that, they brought like tough 12 stuff, right? Then you're like, okay, well, at least my rounded list still has a way of coping here, right? Especially if you're playing against lots of different players, for sure. I think Jake was playing in like a fantasy growth league at his local game store, and he was bringing Havoc dwarves, and he said that they were allowing allies, and everyone was bringing infiltrate zombies from Vampiric Undead, right?
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, and he was like what? Like that's a threat I need to deal with, right? Because literally everyone's bringing it there. And assuming it was just like, I can't remember if it was actually slow grow or if it was just you bring different lists at different times.
Or something,
Yeah, but what that meant is, if he built a rounded list, which I think he did, he has some chance there. And then as he then grows, he goes like, well, everyone's brought these zombies, so now I can just tack a little bit extra onto this without my whole list skewing too much, which I think is nice.
Yeah, thank you very much. Greybeard Tavern asks, Dear Harvey and Professor Dave, if you could have one completely kitted out and painted OPR force, what would it be and why that force? Now, I've wondered about this question. I saw it come in and I was thinking it was really hard to answer because I've got every effing STL under the moon. So I could get it. But if this was the case of saying someone goes, wave a magic wand, ta-da, here's your new army, beautifully painted and presented, what would it be? And I still struggle with that one. Maybe like Titan Lords, because I don't have it, and it's quite daunting painting these such unique and big minis. That's kind of up there for me.
I mean, that's basically what I've tried to do. That's basically what I've done by getting Bents to paint an army for me, right? A nice agnostic army, right? So for that purpose, exactly. I guess if it had to be a faction, if it had to be like OPR minis, right? And let's just pretend like they've made minis for every faction, but you only got that faction, so it couldn't be a proxy army like I've just suggested. What is the one faction that I would truly love? I mean, I think for GDF it's gotta be Dark Elves, right? Like I really love that like bursty, high mobility play style, right? And I think when you I feel like elves tend to have quite a capacity for really, really beautiful painting, right? I think they can be quite challenging to paint because they tend to be very intricate compared to, if you just pick like Gollum people or whatever, right? Like Battle Brothers, right? Who can definitely be painted amazingly, but most of the time are painted one color for 90% of their body and then you trim sure. So I think, I think that would be amazing to have like a really beautifully painted Dark Elf army. And there's something it's got some flexibility to it with the different minis and such. And if I was picking a fantasy one, God, I mean, it's got to be Lizardman. It's got to be Saurians, right? Yeah. I just think nothing looks more rad than a Saurian list, right? Like with like chameleons all painted nice, like the colorfulness of the whole army, the variety of different units in it, just having dinosaurs painted is fucking rad. Like surely it's got to be Saurians, and I don't think Sci-Fi Saurians does it for me the same way.
Sci-Fi Saurians doesn't do it for me in the same way. I know what you mean.
Not even remotely. I think they have a there's a picture in my mind, and it's from that game that the Goobertown Hobbies and thing you played of like a gecko with the shield, like the white shield, and it just cringes me out. I can't even begin to think about owning something like that. But if you took that exact same gecko, gave him a blowpipe instead, yeah, that's my shit. Yeah. I thought with that. Yeah, give me some chameleons. That's fucking rad.
I'm gonna go with 2 fantasy armies. If it was an OPR range, I'm going to go with 3. I'm going to steal this. Fantasy, OPR range, Duchies of Vinci. They seem really cool. Yeah. I'd love to kiss it out one of them. Yeah. Age of Fantasy, I am doing it. I'm really excited for Sci-Fi Rats. I'm going to be printing and painting out an army of those. I'm already printing and painting Fantasy Rats at the moment, and I am loving it. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing it for Sci-Fi. And then as for non-OPR range, Dragon Empire. Just the idea of a full army of little dragon dudes. Like, I freaking love dragons. Dragons and angels and shit like that.
Dragon Trappers Lodge.
DTL's Children of the Flame range is sick. And so that's on my list.
That is really sick, isn't it? If actually, but going back to that, like, what would you like to see added to OPR kind of style questions? A lot of the Dragon Trappers Lodge stuff is really cool, right? Thematically, right? Like it'd be cool to see more like fey creatures and stuff in OPR. Like really dig into some D&D stuff, right? And drag like some classic fantasy stylings, right?
I said it earlier. I love the multiplanar aspect of the Age of Fantasy setting that they're digging at, and like the Void Gates are bringing in these extra dimensional factions. That's where the Shadow Stalkers and the Eternal Wardens are coming from. Fucking make it the game. Make that your lore, because that is so cool in my mind. To me personally, everyone's entitled to their own subjective opinion, blah 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 blah. Do that shit, it's fucking cool. Right? Like bring in the Fae, and it doesn't have to be extra dimensional from another world, because the Fae can exist on the same world, just in a parallel reality. The Fae coming in and invading the Wood Elves, tension, new faction, cool shit like that. I'd like to see the Deep Sea Elves get some OPR releases too. That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Thank you very much, Greybeard Tavern. John asks one more question. In case you're still collecting, can you explain why you don't like quality 5? Wouldn't you rather have 25 up attacks from Assault Grunts versus 12 4-ups from Hive Warriors? Particularly when Furious is thrown into the mix. Furious, you've shot yourself in the foot there a little bit, because Furious is really quick and dirty shortcut. It is +1 quality to hit, which we can talk about and have talked about separately. My number one answer of why I like Qual 5 much worse than Qual 4 is because of morale and the impacts that morale has on OPR. That's the long and short of it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if I do dislike quality 5. I feel like I prefer quality 5 to quality 4, right? I think I hate quality 4. I like quality 3 and I like quality 5. And I think I like them because they're more predictable, right? I think that when you have quality when you have qual 3, you're like, you have like qual 3, I can expect it to punch at least like qual 4. Like how I would expect qual 4 to punch, right? If I get half my attacks hit, I can rely on that because it's like a pretty decent odd of that happening. When you have quality 4, who fucking knows what goes on there, right? You roll some dice, you hit 2 of them, or you hit 12 of them, right? Like,
what do we dismiss so much? It's quality 4 factions because the 4-up is so fickle.
It is so fickle, yeah.
Sometimes
you can't have a feeling which way it's going to go, right? It's hard to bet on it. And then so quality 5, which is what the question is about, has the inverse thing for quality 3, where I know it's not going to do very well, right? So it makes it easier to play around, right? Like I recently played Dark Elves in a tournament, and they've got these units called Bloodhounds, and Bloodhounds are quality 4, 2 attacks each with Bane. And there were loads of times where I'd charge a unit that had 10 wounds, right, with defense 6. And I'd go to myself, if I just hit the average number of hits here, there's a good chance I do 10 wounds because I've got 6s into 6s on my opponent's side because of Bane. And I'd roll a 9 or an 8, right? And I'd be like, that is so frustrating because it could have just wiped the unit out. And if it was a 3-up, that charge basically always does 10 hits, right? But it's like the percentage chance is way higher. So I think it's more about like knowing what to expect from it, right? Like if you watched our video where we did ogres versus robot legions for game 2 of the tournament pack a couple months ago now, in it I have some counter-attacking pet goblins, or little ones they're now called. And
they do.
Dave charged them, and I rolled like really high, and they absolutely obliterate, and they almost won combat and all this kind of stuff. And my expectation was they'd get run over, so I was playing them like they were going to get run over, right? And if they'd got run over, then that's fine because it's part of my strategy. And the fact that they spiked was great, but it was just like the cherry on top. Right? Yeah, it was fine that they were going to die and do nothing, but the fact they did something was just a bonus. So quality 4, I feel like sits in that middle zone where you're like, I don't know what to expect from you. Like I just don't trust you to do the thing that I need you to do. I don't. Yeah. I've spent too many points on you to trust you to just die, and I've spent too little points on you. No, too many points on you to to not hit hard enough, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I think quality 5 is absolutely fine. Like you say, like 20 attacks, quality 5 is very potent. If you've got one of those, it's like alien hive grunts or whatever is the example, right? That's a lot of attacks, and that is good. And especially when you throw Furious in the mix. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say I probably would take assault grunts over hive warriors in general.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think that is just a better unit anyway. So it's less about quality really than that. But yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I think we are coming to the end now. Himmelmeister has put a question in. I'm not sure if it was just a general question to chat, but we're going to answer it here as our final question in this Q&A. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and all of your questions. This is a far longer video than we've recorded in quite some time, but it's wonderful to see all of this engagement from you all. What are the best ways to overcome the slow rule for Dwarf Guilds and Grimdark future firefight, GFF, especially against a hypermobile faction like High Elf Fleets? That's a tricky question. You're more practiced with Dwarf Guilds than I am, so lead on.
I am, yeah. So Dave was talking before about the narrative campaign we did a while ago where you played 3 games of Firefight. I played Dwarf Guilds for them. The ways of overcoming the slow for Dwarf Guilds in Firefight, I think their miners are just really, really efficient and cheap. They've got 2 attacks, they've got AP2, they pop up. You're playing against high elf fleets, so you're probably playing against stuff with defense 4 with 1 wound and expensive. So if you can pop a miner up, which I think it costs like 20 points, maybe less than that. I actually... I'm going to check it right now just so that I'm not talking absolute nonsense. I always click on Grimdark Future instead of Firefight every single time.
Every single time.
Okay. So Dwarf Guilds in Firefight, a miner costs 20 points.
You were right on the nose.
Yeah. So, and that has got 2 attacks with AP2 and it hits on 4-ups. So it's the evil 4-ups again, but it's only 20 points. It's like nothing. And AP2 is going to basically force them onto a 6-up, right? Every time against high elf fleets. So I would just bring a bunch of those for dealing with high elf fleets. And because you then got lots of little ambush units, it takes some activations to kill them because you spent 60 points on 3 miners. And that lets you play the board a little bit better. The jetpack guys are also very similar. They have ambush and they have access to shotguns in the same way. So you can just pile on a bunch of those guys to help deal with your mobility issues. Otherwise, as mentioned, someone responded to them saying, like, bring heroes with the anti-slow thing, which I think is a good shout. One thing that the Dwarf Guilds have is their warriors can take regen aura, So you can take slow, and you can take anti-slow and regen aura, and have like a little group of people who are all regen buffed up and not slow, and you can play like a relatively normal game for round 1, and then round 2 bring out your ambush and do all that stuff. I think that's probably the best way of overcoming the slow rule. I would say the slow rule in Firefight is probably less punishing than the main game, just because the board's a lot smaller.
Thing, right?
And Swift Aura lets you basically overcome it full time. But yeah, I would tend to steer away from bringing Swift Aura leaders, just because they're quite expensive for what they're doing in a game mode where you can bring lots of shooting instead, right? But yeah, I bring the ambush units. I'd say is probably the first thing. That's going to help. That's going to help massively against high elf fleets who are relatively squishy and expensive. Yeah, that will help with the slow thing.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Those are some fantastic questions, guys. Thank you for watching this video along one all the way to the end as well. If you're here, make sure you let us know who would win in a bar fight in your view, 2 British guys or Warboss Fitz and Jacob from Lord of the Midwest. Very important we canvass everybody's opinion on that one. This has been fantastic. Any more questions, please join us in the Discord. Did you enjoy this video? Is this a format you'd like to see more of? It is a long one, but one that we can, of course, do more frequently, quarterly or half a yearly or whatever. That's it, really. Subscribe to the channel, comment down below, thumbs up the video, please. Join us in our Discord, and we will see you in the next video.